You're listening to Backlog Banter with your host, Serial K86.
Hello, greetings and kamusta everyone to another episode of Backlog Banter. I'm your host Serial K, and as of the time of this recording, well, in a few hours, this show, the BB podcast, will be a year old. So yeah, welcome to the first anniversary of this show. It's not the show will be in a couple hours a year old. I can't believe I've been doing this for a year, but there you go. Yeah. So, let's see. So for this episode, I have two guests. The first one is Otis, aka Meleemario. You're probably familiar with him by this point. And for the second guest, yeah. And for the second guest, it's someone we haven't had in quite a while. We haven't had him since the first episode, actually. That will be DarkSparkish. Well, welcome to the show, Dark.
Hey, it's a pleasure being back. It's certainly been a year.
Yep, it's been a whole year since we started making the show. So yeah, my thoughts are all over the place. All right, so let's see. Before we talk about our picks, jump straight into our picks, I think we should start. I'm gonna take a page from Gumshoe Gamers podcast and talk about a couple news. And they're a little old at this point, but I think they're worth discussing for a little bit before I talk about our picks for this episode. So the first piece of news is Sony announcing that they're shutting down the PS3 and PS Vita stores, and then reversing their decision after backlash from the gaming community. What are your thoughts on that? Let's start with Otis.
Sorry, for some reason my mic muted itself. Hope you can hear me. Honestly, okay, I kind of went into I knew it was. I even before the announcement, I kind of figured it would happen soon because I used to browse through Sony through PSN on the web browser, but then they changed the setup so that you could no longer search for PSN games on PS3, and I thought, oh, okay, are they planning on closing it soon? Sure enough, there we go. And then that kind of sent me on trying to track down certain games that came up physically that were known as digital-only titles, because I ended up buying a couple, and one didn't come through, and another was too expensive. I can briefly describe them. I won't go into too much detail. You ever heard of Tokyo Jungle?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Sounds familiar.
The one where you play as a Pomeranian and you can fuck up lions just by attacking them, and it's like a survival crafting game. From the looks of it, I don't know. I had to buy a copy from Japan because a US copies exist, but only in a collection, which goes for something ridiculous now, $300.
Yikes!
Yeah, and you can still buy the game for £10 or so, but it's just the fact that it's just I'll try and get the physical. And the other one was Pain.
Yeah, that game with
Pain. I heard of it.
European exclusive.
Yeah, Pan Pizza's been tweeting about it for a while now.
Every single bit of DLC, whereas I think that the only piece of DLC worth getting is Daxter, because it's free. You get to chuck Daxter.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I think one of them with David Hasselhoff for some reason.
Seriously? I didn't know that pack. But no, that had a physical disc, but I don't think it included the Daxter DLC, but I'm pretty sure I have it downloaded, although my PS3 being in storage, I can't exactly check that. But it kind of led me on to, because I recently got an Xbox One, and because basically Sony is terrible at backwards compatibility stuff.
Yes.
For the most part, even with the PS5 stuff, a lot of it is very confusing. It's some you have to pay for upgrades, with Spider-Man to change Peter Parker's face, among other enhancements. And what was it? Others don't work, like Shadow Complex. That's just not compatible. compatible with whatsoever on PS5. Others have issues that the PS4 versions didn't have. It's kind of all over the place, and the whole upgrade system doesn't make much sense as well. Same with the new Oddworld. You need PlayStation Plus to upgrade to the PS5 version.
Really?
No other game does that. It's like, what the hell? What the hell is this upgrade system? Whereas with Xbox, it's relatively straightforward. You know, you have like the game, you can pop it and play it, and also with like, and it kind of led me onto the 360 compatibility, where you can take just the ability to take these old ass discs, pop them in, and then get like a version that will work on your new system is actually something that I'm surprised like Sony haven't adopted yet. Like being able to pop in your PS3 disc and you get like an upgraded version. It's just like, man, they're really missing out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, honestly, the PS... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it really sucked with the PS3 store, but no, with the Vita store, that was more of I think more of a kick in the pants for a lot of developers because people were still making games for it.
Yeah.
And then being told it was shut down, it's just like it's still got kind of a strong indie scene because it is like a nice little handheld for that sort of scope, but it's just like it just. I mean, at least they reversed that decision, but I don't know how long that's gonna continue for.
Yeah, there's definitely that, and plus in addition to the PSN, or at least the initial takedown of the servers on the PS3 and PS Vita especially, the PSP will still be shut down though.
Yes.
There was also talks about the PS3, PS4, and PS5 having a CMOS battery that when it goes down, and also when the servers go down, your consoles are pretty much just paperweights. Though with the PS3 you can at least play games straight from the discs, but the PS4 and PS5, since they install games from the disc and only use the disc as a form of DRM, you're pretty much fucked unless if you mod these consoles.
I can't believe they took influence from the Philips CDI.
Yeah, like I haven't seen anything as destructive as since the CDI.
Like with that, like you had to like grind away a chip to get to the battery, and I thought, oh, I'm glad that systems don't do that anymore. It's like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, fuck.
Like honestly,
Oh
I love the PS4, but like basically that crap, it makes me consider like getting certain games on the Xbox. I mean, I know that one's sort of a lockdown system as well, but they have more of a future-proof plan in place, like with the whole X series, like your newer games will just work. I don't know, like, I mean, I will still buy games for PS4, and I may end up modding mine at some point because I mostly end up buying disc games anyway, downloads if they're cheap enough. And actually, I found out that most third-party games are actually like way cheap on Xbox One. Like things like A Way Out, the co-op game, are like 15 compared to like the 30. Same with Transformers Devastation, and among other titles. It's just like, yeah, so for some reason, like the Xbox One versions of those games are more commonplace. So now that I own both, I mean, not everyone will have that luxury though. Like some people only just have that one system. So say if it is just the PS4, then that's kind of what you stick with, and that's what I did. But like, I don't know, it's just dumb, like having to choose between which version to get, because we're gonna do the same with RE8. We don't know what system to buy that on. Like, do we get the one on with the inevitable failing battery, or the new unit? Just like, well, I don't know. I mean, the demo worked fine. It's a great demo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Tough decisions.
So I'm at least glad that I have a pretty powerful PC that can run pretty much most games well enough. And I also additionally have an Xbox One X, which can definitely play Xbox 360 and few OG Xbox games. So I'm definitely happy on that front.
I'm so happy they supported the OG stuff, because I thought a lot of that... Surprising about Star Wars games. You think they just abandoned them, but it's like, oh, cool. You can like... Armed and Dangerous was one which I tried. Like, the cutscenes have aged like milk, but you can play it.
I mean,
it's one.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best. It's probably the best emulation the original Xbox has gotten. Not even the OG Xbox emulation on PC has gotten quite far yet, and it's way below what's on the way below PS2 and GameCube emulation on that platform.
What really sold me on it was the game Psychonauts. I bought that on PS4 via PSN while it was on sale, so it was only like £3, not full price.
Same.
And for some reason, the performance was terrible. I don't know if that's because it was used in the PS2 version, but the fact that my old OG Xbox disc ran the game like it was the version it had was just fine, like no hitches. Actually good performance, because other PS2 games I tried on PS4 were fine, but it's just like, I don't know, it's just like it's not a very consistent track record, and they don't have the classics that you think they'd have.
Yeah.
Like not even like with Ratchet and Clank, with Rift Apart coming out and those PS3 games only ever being on PS3. It's balmy that they've not made like a PS4 collection or some sort of PSN release or something. It's just like,
yeah,
Sony, man. I mean, aside from that, that's the only PS5 game that interests me, by the way. Everything else is sort of there.
Well, they did at least update the 2016 remake of Ratchet and Clank to support 60 FPS on the PS5, which is pretty dope. But I do definitely wish that they re-released the original trilogy on the PS4, at least the PS4, because these games need. Yeah, just like, they definitely need to re-release that, but on the PS4 and PS5, you know.
Yeah, no, because they did it with because they had those HD collections of PS3, which were great, except that Ratchet's was slightly flawed. It felt like a sort of a rush job compared to the Sly and Jack collections. Well, it's just the fact that they've not been released on. Anyway, to be short, basically, they've not been re-released on PS4 yet or PS5, and they kind of deserved that, especially with Rift Apart coming out, because those games directly tie in, and just like more people just need to experience the originals with the actually funny jokes, unlike the mostly watered down ones that the 2016 version had. But I said that piece on my piece on it last time extensively, so
yeah.
I won't say any more here.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Over an hour.
Yeah, I've never played the HD remaster of Jak and Daxter, but yeah, for the Ratchet and Clank
It's a good collection, just not on Vita. Vita, it was terrible.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
Like I saw footage in like 2 and 3 are super slow, 1 is decent, and those Vita HD collections are kind of pricey for what they are.
Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah, but oh yeah, because that's another thing with the Vita. I was gonna like try. I was looking into like buying a third-party memory card, but they only ever seem to be for homebrewing stuff. Like, because official ones are like out the roof. Otherwise, I would download all the indie stuff I could.
Yeah, if only they didn't rely on a proprietary memory card.
I'm selling my Vita soon.
Oh, okay. Which model was it? It was like a slim one or like the
original, the OG.
Old one?
The
Yeah,
one with the...
I have a slim model. I'm still
one
keeping
with the
in mind...
OLED screen, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still keeping in mind for like the few games that came to it, but a lot of them did get ported. Like, was it Danganronpa? Uncharted didn't get ported, but that's because that was like heavily built around like the Vita's gimmicks. Thankfully, Tearaway did. It got a PS4 version that was actually slightly expanded.
Yes, I've heard of it.
And Gravity Rush too. Basically you will find the best of the Vita on other systems, but there are some like little things lost in translation. But you'll get the core of most of them. I'm surprised that things like Persona 4 Golden were only put on Steam and not PS4 yet.
Maybe they'll do that.
I mean, at least PC gamers won't have a reason to buy a PS Vita now. So
yeah,
there's that.
They get the good expanded version of that game, and not have to faff around with using a PlayStation TV to play on your TV. I mean, even explaining that system is confusing.
I have a PS TV and I've barely used it.
I wanted one for modding, but they became too expensive, much like a PlayStation 1 Mini.
Yeah. I mean, I at least got one for like 500 Norwegian crowns, which is roughly $50 ish, which is a somewhat fair price at least. So
Okay, so those are those are our thoughts on the kerfuffle with Sony and their terminating their PSN, PS3 and PS Vita stores and reversing their decision later. Thank goodness that happened. Not with the PSP though, but whatever. So yeah, I think it's about time we jump to our picks for this episode. So I'm gonna start first. So let's see here. So for my pick, I'm gonna go with Sonic Heroes. This game was released in 2004, published by Sega and developed by Sonic Team for the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and the original Xbox, making this the first official 3D Sonic game to be released on multi-platforms. Not counting
Which platform did you use?
I played the GameCube version because I heard that.
Oh, the good one.
Yes.
I wasn't so lucky. I had the PS2 one.
I directly suggested him that.
Glad you did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about what the game is yet, and already we're bringing up like the platform differences.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably say for later why the PS2 version sucks, but you can go on, Serial.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, let's briefly talk about the story. For the first two quote unquote Dreamcast games, it's discussed stuff about like the supernatural elements for the first game, and the second game was like science fiction and over the top and stuff like that. For this one, the story is pretty straightforward. Eggman is aiming to conquer the world in 3 days, and Sonic and his friend must stop him. A lot more simple from the adventure games. There's also Team Dark, which is Shadow and Rouge the Bat, and a new character wants to stop Eggman. And also, anyway, let's get to the gameplay. So yeah, in short, the story is a lot more simple than the original adventure games. We'll just talk about it later as we talk about this game. For the gameplay, it's a 3D platformer where you play as a team of 3 characters, each with their own abilities. They represent speed, flying, and power. The speed character is the fastest, which attack enemies with the homing attacks, and can do a horizontal wall jump called the triangle jump. They can also do a move called the Rocket Excel, but it's pretty much useless. I
forgot that. Yeah, I forgot that was in the game too. So.
Yeah, I think only Sonic and Shadow can do this move, but yeah, it's pretty useless. Like for like one instance in a level they can use it, but that's about it. The flying character can fly for a short while and carry the other team members, and attack enemies with a projectile moves called the Thunder Shoot. Power is the strongest character. They can attack multiple enemies, break some obstacles, and glide on fans. All teams have what is called a Team Blast meter, which you fill by destroying enemies and collecting rings. By filling up the meter, you can do what is called a Team Blast attack, which is a screen nuke that can destroys all enemies who are next to you, and give you a temporary effect depending on the team you're playing as. So for Team Sonic, you can do like an improved Thunder Shoot when you pick Tails. For Team Dark, you can
it can be easily exploited in the.
Yeah, for Team Dark, you can use Chaos.
Yeah, it can be easily exploited in the case of Team Rose, but we'll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For Team Dark, you can you get to use Chaos Control, which can freeze enemies in the air, but also can freeze your progress, which can be a bit of a pain. For Team Rose, you level up, which is we'll talk about it in detail later on. You level up, and also you get a temporary invincibility. And for Team Team Chaotix,
Team Chaotix, yeah.
Yes, for Team
They're
Chaotix,
detective.
yeah. For Team Chaotix, you get hundreds of rings, which, when done right, you can rake up a lot of lives this way. Okay, so let's see. What about this? We're talking about Team Blast. Okay. Oh yeah, and all members of your team must level up to easily destroy enemies in each level, which is a bit annoying. Each character they have to level up to level 3, which you get from either passing through checkpoints, or from either checkpoints or from collecting special capsules.
Checkpoints?
Yeah. Sometimes when you pass a checkpoint with a certain character, they level up.
Yeah, and the level ups only stick for that one level, and then they're like wiped by the next.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying. You have to do it in each level. Like, if it was gradually through the campaign, it would have been one thing. And you have to level up because when you
mechanic.
Yeah, it's when you fully level up, you can destroy enemies easily, especially when you play as a fly character. Because fly characters.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So. Like I said before, you get to play in this game. You get to pick as one of 4 teams. Each have their own storyline and each have their own progression requirements. With the first team, technically it's the second team, but I like to talk about them first because they're the easiest. Team Rose represent the easy difficulty, and their levels are the shortest. For their story, Rose is just chasing Sonic as usual.
Yeah, because each level is the same, and then I think they just put the goal ring in different positions depending on which team you pick.
Yeah, the levels, the level layout is different depending on which team you pick. So yeah, for Team Rose, like I said before, they're the easiest. Rose is chasing Sonic. Cream, who was introduced from Sonic Advance 2, is here to look for her Chow's friend, Chocola. And yeah, Big the Cat is back, but this time no fishing levels, thank goodness. And he's looking for his stupid frog again.
Little fishing rod.
Yes, his stupid frog again. So yeah, their levels are the easiest, and like I said, not just their level, also when they do their team blast, it's pretty much the easy difficulty in the game. And then there's Team Sonic, which is they're pretty much the medium difficulty. And then there's Team Dark. Team Dark is basically the hard difficulty with a different level layout from Team Sonic and a harder enemy placement.
Then what does that make Team Chaotix? Extra hard?
More like normal mode, but with a challenge. But they're more like a challenge mode.
Yeah, I honestly found them the hardest, considering that most of their challenges revolved around picking up obscure tiny items, at least in the case of the first stage, because I never got any further than that.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. Okay, and then there's Team...
Yeah.
And finally there's Team Chaotix, which are different from the other because the levels are basically mission-based, which with each level you can only end by completing certain objectives, like collecting a certain number of objects, or going from point A to point B without being detected and stuff like that. It can be fun, but sometimes it can be really frustrating. So it depends on how you look at it. Also in this game there are 7 zones in the entire game. Well, there are no zones officially, but there are 2 levels each 2 levels that share a certain theme. So there are quote-unquote 7 zones. So basically there's like 14 levels. So yeah, like I said, 7 zones. Each has 2 levels and ends with a boss. And each 2 levels end with either a boss fight, an enemy gauntlet, or a team fight, which we'll get to later on. And here's an interesting thing: like with the classic games, Chaos, you don't collect Chaos Emeralds by progressing through the story. No. For this time, they decided to take a page from the classic games and making Chaos Emeralds only collectible by unlocking special stages, which can be unlocked by collecting their keys from the second level of a zone and finishing them without getting hit. So
I kind of forgot that was a mechanic as well. It's just like, I think that's like the worst way to incorporate emeralds, because honestly, I'm kind of terrible at emerald hunting in Sonic games anyway, but that was just like, if you're playing anyone else but Team Rose, which again, being the easy mode, like trying to grab those emeralds in those specific stages, it almost feels impossible. I bet someone can do it, but it's just like, I mean, how did you fare in those special stages?
For me personally, I went with the Team Rose. The good thing about this game is that you don't have to collect all emeralds as all 4 teams. Just one of them is enough. So I went with the Team Rose. Yeah, these special stages can be a little annoying. But all you have to do is just.
They're a half.
Yeah, they're not
a half pipe. They're like a full pipe.
Yes, sometimes you can go all over the place. That's the problem with them.
Yeah.
To be honest, I actually think that these stages are easy as piss if you know how to get through them. You can pretty much.
I had no idea what I was doing because they just throw you in.
I mean, what I do based on a video I've seen. You immediately choose the power character and boost, and then you can, like, in the first few seconds already get the emerald. It's really quick.
Because I chose the speed character thinking, hey, they should be the fastest, not the power character.
You know.
Yeah, so you can pretty.
Yeah, that's the same strategy I went with, because I found that video as well.
Wow. I honestly had no clue of this. That probably might have saved myself some frustration.
Yeah, you'll save yourself a lot of frustration.
Yeah, because choose Big the Cat.
Yes, that's because Big the Cat is awesome. That's why.
Yeah, well, in Sonic Heroes, yeah, he's a good player. He's a fun character to play as.
Yeah. I mean, who can not like a big purple cat who's voiced by Duke Nukem? Who can't?
Yeah, if I ever met John St. John, I'd just get him to sign my... Unironically, actually, because everyone probably just goes to about Duke. Rarely anyone probably about Big.
He probably hear it all the time.
He probably does, yeah.
He also voiced E123 Omega, which is the power character in Team Dark's in Team Dark, who also has a pretty cool, who I think sounds pretty badass.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's basically an angry Omega. No, an angry Gamma.
Angry Gamba.
Here's my favorite line: annihilate chart fire.
Useless consumer models.
Annihilate chart fire.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we should probably get moving.
Let's I think we have to touch a little bit about the story. A little bit. This game, despite being simple in its plot, is surprisingly somewhat of a continuation of the adventure games. Because in this one, Shadow the Hedgehog returns, and they explain that because he somewhat survived his fall from at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, but he has amnesia now, and he's locked in some sort of basement in one of Eggman's bases.
Rouge never brings it up.
Nope. She could have explained it to him, but she doesn't for some reason. Also, in the same basement, Omega 123 Omega was in there, and his whole story is Eggman just locked him there, and he's angry and wants revenge.
Yeah, I guess it was to make it more approachable to people who never played Adventure, but it doesn't work if you have played Adventure, because then it's like there's like immediate questions raised. It's just like, oh no, they usually the focus, but it's just like, I don't know, something about the writing. They just constantly do it.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. Especially considering that Heroes was made as a kind of a game made for newcomers to the series. This was back around 2003, by the way, which was when Sega really wanted to focus on Sonic that year, releasing Sonic X, many GBA spin-offs, and many more.
Ooh. Yeah, I actually watched not all of X, the first 2 seasons, because that's all that Netflix had. Prime has season 3, which is apparently better, but not the Japanese version that had a bunch. Basically, the European version had stuff cut. Well, the international version of that show had stuff cut out.
That's true.
Yeah, they
so let's not go on to Sonic X. That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, we should not probably get too deep into Sonic X, but we can move on.
Yeah. So
yeah, no.
Back to
so
Sonic Heroes. Yeah. There's also there's also a plot element about him being maybe or maybe not a robot, but that doesn't get fully explained until the next game, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that game.
Damn, not here. He's the coolest.
He's
Shadow Android.
Shadow.
I'm the coolest.
I do Shadow, I can do Batman, I don't know.
Am I an android?
I'm the coolest.
Nice cock.
Poor man.
Nice cock.
Pee your pants.
Nice chicken.
Okay. We could do this forever.
Oh.
Anime is a real piece of art. It was not a mistake.
Fun computer room.
Find the computer room. Anyways,
yeah.
So heroes.
Yeah, back to Heroes. Okay, so if I'm gonna get this game, I'm gonna get this game quickly. My pros and cons, and then I'm gonna get to your thoughts about these games. So for the pros, I can say for the most part, not all of it. Okay, I can say the level themes, they're actually quite closer to the classic games, which I like. Because if anything, I can give credit to the classic Sonic games. They're quite. There's a variety in themes. This soundtrack is amazing, but that's kind of a given when it comes to talking about Sonic games.
Yeah.
Soundtrack is great. The level design for most of the levels is alright, I think. And the game has a great presentation. For the most part, it's great. It's great for a Sonic game from the mid-2000s, early mid-2000s. Now, if there's any cons, and this is where this is my my gripes with this game, it's the controls, especially with speed characters. The speed characters, I don't know what was the Sonic team was thinking, but the speed characters move too fast, and they're slippery. Sometimes when you fall from a long jump, you don't stop on a dime. You still keep moving.
Yeah, it's like you need to jump to stabilize yourself.
Yeah,
it's incredibly nerve-wracking, especially over the mini bottomless pits you're going to be facing. It's just like you have to anything involving jumping on cubes that spin while you're crossing them. It's oh god, those controls are just not suited for it. Even when switching to flying, it's still pretty slippery.
Yeah, but with the flying, at least it's some. The problem with flying characters, they're also slow. So this is why I found myself, for the most part, sticking with the power characters. They're not as slow, and yeah.
This in the special stages, it seems like the power one is the best one to go with for the most part.
For some reason, I don't know why.
For some reason, if not speed, power.
Yeah. Also, the enemies in this game, they have health bars, so they don't get destroyed easily. And you're gonna find yourself using either of those three teams, which, to be honest, I find it a bit of a pace breaking sometimes. Especially when you fight those giant ones.
4 to sometimes 3 to 4 hits on certain enemies, or or at least in my case, accidentally targeting the wrong enemy.
Yeah, it's a little easier when you level up, but yeah, other than that, it can get a little monotonous.
Yeah.
Another issue I have with this game is the levels. Like I said, with Team Rose, they're the easiest and shortest. But if you go with like Team Shadow or Team Dark or Team Sonic, a level can take you like 14 to 20 minutes long, which can be a bit of a chore.
Yeah, that's being generous as well, because I think, I mean, again, I'm not being very good at this game myself whenever I tried it. Yeah, no, it just felt like there'd be like this one obstacle of like a particular level that would just interrupt the whole flow. You finally get past it, but then by then you've already wasted half your lives, and it's like then you suddenly get like knocked off by something, and then that's it. You know, have to restart. It's just like it's the most annoying thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also, okay, it doesn't happen often, like in Sonic Adventure 2, but in Sonic Heroes, especially sometimes when you switch between grind rails, if you press the A button, if you press the jump button in the wrong way, if you hold on it, sometimes you're gonna find yourself just plummeting to your death.
And also, much like many mechanics, I kept forgetting you could actually switch rails, because it barely seemed to work half the time. It just felt like you were deliberately jumping off most of the time, because, I mean, at that time, that's when I first started playing Ratchet & Clank. That knows how to switch grinding rails. Like, it did it well, and even in, like, previous Sonics, in Adventure 2, it was still a little bit slippery, but you could still do it. Whereas in this, it was like a 50-50 chance whether or not you just fly off to the side.
Yeah, maybe that's for the PlayStation.
And like, there's like a speed up button. There's like a speed up button you can hit, but that barely seemed to do anything. It was actually a safer bet to switch to the slow flying character to if you needed to switch rails. But then again, being that there's like speed boosters on the rails sometimes, you don't really usually have that opportunity.
Yeah. It's not. I think that's only for the PlayStation 2 version, because for the PlayStation, the GameCube is a little more unmanageable. It happens, but not as often.
I remember trying a friend's.
Yeah.
That's what you say.
Yeah. I'll get to the PS2 version when it's my turn to talk about Sonic Heroes, but yeah, you can. Yeah. As for the grinding, I feel that whenever I'm grinding, I usually like to not press left or right on the left analog stick all the way, but like kind of like halfway before jumping on rails. I at least haven't had issues jumping between rail to rail that way in Heroes. I never fallen off entirely, at least.
Yeah, because I remember trying a friend's cube copy and just being way more impressed by how much more stable everything was, and it's just like, well, why the hell? Because I got a GameCube first before PS2. Why the hell did I get this as a kid? I don't know. It's just like, it was just such a weird, jarring difference. But again, that's different subject.
I've only had a PS2 as a kid, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get to talk about your thoughts on this game.
Yep.
Also, another issue I have with this game, like with the adventure games, you have to beat the game certain times to unlock the final scenario.
They really grew fond of repeating content.
Yeah, for the adventure games, and they were manageable. But for Sonic Heroes, it was really a pain in the neck, because in all four teams you play as in this game, you have to beat the game. You have to beat all 14 levels with all the boss levels 4 times, and it can get really, really, really tedious.
I think Shadow was almost as grindy, but not quite as much as this. I think I don't know. I can't compare, because I'm honestly not sure which would be worse, or if they're the same in terms of like trying to pan out game length.
I could say Team Dark and Team Sonic is almost the same when it comes to length.
So you're essentially playing it with just different characters and cutscenes.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
At least there aren't multiple endings like Shadow the Hedgehog before getting to the real, only true ending.
Oh.
Night Doctor.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, this is why I'll never touch that game ever.
Don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna waste my time with that game. Yeah, but like I said, I have to beat the game four times. It's a bit annoying, and there's also the final scenario where you finally beat the real final boss, which is spoilers, Metal Sonic. Which I'm gonna say the final boss fight, when you get to fight him as Team Sonic, it's you have to collect all you're flying as Team Sonic, and you have to beat him. You have to fill your Team Blast meter to inflict damage on him, and you also have to collect all the balloons because it fills your ring meter, because you're in supersonic mode during the entire game, and if that ring meter goes to 0, it's game. You'll lose a life. I remember I lost. I remember I got like 2 game overs, and when you get a game over while fighting Metal Sonic during the fight as Team Sonic, you have to start fighting him as the other 3 teams all over again. Because you don't fight him as Team Sonic immediately. You have to fight him as the other 3 teams first, when he's in his Metal Madness phase. After you fight him,
the song.
Yeah, the song
playing while that happens. It's cool as hell, but it's just like, man, the fact that we have to restart if you fail, it's just like, it's a pace breaker.
Yeah, it was a bit of a pain. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that part, Dark?
I don't know. I don't remember having that much of an issue with the final boss. My memory could my memory could be foggy, but I don't exactly remember dying much on that part. At least I don't remember. Or at least I don't recall getting a game over on that part.
Yeah, because the thing is, the camera moves wherever Metal Sonic is moving during the fight against Team Sonic. But the trouble is, you have to, whenever you get close to a balloon, you have to pick it up. If you miss it, there's a strong chance you're gonna lose a life, and your meter goes 0. So I thought it was really annoying.
Yeah, I never reached it, so I only ever saw it through video.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I think that's the word I can. These are the 2 words I can pretty much describe this game in general. Nerve-wracking. There's a lot of moments in this game.
Ooh.
There's a lot of moments in this game where you either gotta fall from the jump you made by mistake, or from rails, or from falling. Like Tails' line about falling is probably what can sum up this game. You know, him going, "I'm falling."
I'm falling, and like, oh god, I think like
I'm falling.
No, I think it's the voice actor themselves, but I think that was the worst Tails voice.
Yeah, hands down.
The delivery, like, of course, being a little kid, the delivery was so stiff.
Exactly. I think it was like 8 or something.
I'm fine. Nothing else.
To be honest, I think William Corker is not the best voice of Tails by far. I much prefer Corey and Connor Bringus from Adventure 1 and Adventure 2 respectively. They kind of had a more upbeat energy, at least, to Tails, which fit the character more.
Yeah. Whereas the other, like, this voice was just something off about the delivery. I mean, of course, it feels weird because, again, you're criticizing like a little kid, but of course, like, then it's a constant voice you'll hear throughout the game. So of course, you know, you're gonna find more annoyances with it.
Yeah, it's like they only wanted to have a kid. That's it. They didn't see. They didn't
Yeah.
check if the kid can voice act. Can be a decent
No,
voice
it's just
actor.
like, hey, here's one of the producer's sons. Let's get him in.
And
I mean,
yeah.
I do know for a fact. I do actually know that William Corkery, the kid who voiced Tails, is actually related to the voice of Charmy B, who's and then the voice of Espio, the voice of Espio being father to the kids who did the voice of Charmy and Tails.
Oh.
Interesting. So it was like a Father Sunday voice acting.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, I mean, they're still related though.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the part about the voice actors of Charmy B being related to Tails, but I didn't know their father was the voice of Espio. That's new to me. Whoa, my head's
Yeah, mentioning sound,
spinning.
should we briefly mention the sound design of this game?
Yeah,
And it's sort of tied into the technical elements.
yeah, let's talk about
I
it.
mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I mean, despite the shoddy
Oh, boy.
mixing, I still like the sound effect at least, and of course despite Tails' voice, I still dig the voice acting and of course the music.
The voice acting overall is fine. It's just Tails,
Yeah.
but that's about it.
Yeah, it's like while the delivery is fine, at least on the PS2 version. Okay, I joked about Annihila Charge, but related to Tails, whenever you start flying, like almost with any character's voice action, there's like weird cuts, or just like weird uses of the voice clips. So every time you fly as Tails, for instance, you just hear wee wee.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
I mean that's a thing
and
with the
then
game
every
in
time-
general, not just the PS2 version.
yes.
And every time you throw a ball of attack an enemy, he says, "What sounds like chafe?" I don't know what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I
It's
don't.
bothered me for years.
Yeah, I don't know what he's saying.
And like Knuckles say, like they actually subtitle this "Shah."
He sounds like.
Like, as he's flying across the pit.
Yeah.
What else was there? There was also just like Eggman as well. Like there's a very exploitable boss, his first boss. I don't know how you attacked him yourself, but basically I found the easiest strategy was just to find his first weak point and just hammer X like nothing else, and he'll just say whoa 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 over and over. It's just like it feels broken, but that's the easiest way to do it.
Like that, yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah. Sadly, there's not gonna get away with this. That's not in the game.
No, but there's something kind of similar when you fight him at the end. When he's in his Egg Emperor robot, he just goes, "Take this,
Take this!
Yeah.
Charge!
Shit rock.
Shit, raw!
Like
Shit
that can't
rock.
be anything else. Like it's the fact, like again, it's just such a strange choice of like noises to use, and the fact they're so repetitive because you're gonna be punching enemies and flying and attacking enemies over and over again. You're gonna hear those sounds and like. You hear shit rock and chafe over and over again, and it gets really repetitive.
Shit rock makes me think of that AVGN episode. It's shit rock.
Oh my god. But yeah. Anyway, I think it's just like supposed to be just let's make him say cartoony noises as dialogue, but then after a while it just sounds like real words.
Yeah, I mean it's more. I think he actually says shift rock.
I thought it was going to be more like a noise, like that sort of noise. That's what I thought it would. They just have this like shit, like a straining noise. I don't know. It's really odd. I'm no voice act. But again, I don't know the decision behind these. Maybe it's just like a bajillion takes, and they just took the one that sounded the best.
I mean,
I don't know.
all in all, I think the sound mixing is pretty much on par with SA1 and SA2 actually, aside from some repetitive voice use
It's
of
not
voice
as
clips.
messy as
And
SA2.
I mean, of course, you get the Eggman repeating stuff, just like in SA1. Remember how I said, "Get a load of this."
The best line.
Some of the games. See if we can make it through here, Sonic.
Just like all the quotable lines are just Eggman. It's great.
Yeah.
No, actually related to sound and like, should we bring up the PS2 version because it's tied in?
Yes, I can now finally talk about the PS2 version.
I'll let you
Well,
speak first, because
Yeah,
I'll say my part afterwards.
let's go with that. Sure.
Yeah, so pretty much the PS2 version is inferior to the GameCube version, but is how inferior, you may be wondering. Is it like maybe a few frames lower, maybe some worse graphics? Well, not only are the graphics inferior where the textures are worse and the shadow is literally simplified from full shadows to just being circles, but the frame rate's cut in half to 30 FPS and even drops below that. The controls are even sloppier from my experience, as it feels, maybe, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it feels even slipperier. And sometimes when you press a button, it sometimes recognizes as 2 button presses, which is especially noticeable when you either jump or shift formations. Like, say you want to change from Sonic to Knuckles, but sometimes you go from Sonic to Tails instead in 1 button press when you really want to go to Knuckles.
That probably explains a lot. It honestly explains a lot, because honestly, you know, because we were like, I think it was like a present we were given. It was a platinum copy. You know, honestly, it ties into me distrusting platinum copies of PS2 games ever since, because they never seem to work properly. I just didn't realize it was just the crappier version of that game.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the platinum versions of games are just literally just reprints of original games. Sometimes because it's a reprint, they sometimes. I mean, sometimes because it's a reprint, devs do get a little bit of time to fix some bugs with some games, so I don't know.
I always thought that they felt weaker as discs for some reason, so I went out my way to try and find non-platinum versions of certain games. The only platinum game I have now is Shrek 2. The only platinum game I have is Shrek 2. The rest are like non-platinums, like across my shelf. Although being that they're like PAL region PS2 games, it's just a wall of white text.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the only thing I don't like about platinum copies is that especially the discs look aesthetically basic compared to the initial print versions.
Yeah, they felt like they'd get damaged easier as well, that was my main concern, because they didn't have like a proper label on top. Like it was just, you know, silver with like the black text on top. But yeah, and on top of being gifted it was just like, related to the audio, everything cuts off too early on the PS2 version. I don't know if that was just me. So for instance, when you select Team Sonic, you hear, "Let's blast through with Sonic speed."
Oh yeah,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I remember when I played my friend's GameCube copy, hearing Knuckles say "all right" in full was like, whoa, something's different here.
Yeah, I did notice that too.
No idea how the Xbox version fares. Apparently it's sort of an in-between of GameCube and PS2.
It seems to be much closer to the GameCube version though, as it does run at 60 FPS though, despite being more powerful. Doesn't quite run as well for some reason.
I think Sonic Heroes may have led me to like not really care about frame rate for the most part. I mean, there are some like, you know, indescribably bad instances, but basically, I think honestly, I was not used to games being so smooth. So that when I saw a smooth game, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. Whereas when I saw like a slightly slower game, I just sort of accepted it as that's how it is. I'm not used to like smoother games, so when I see something super smooth, it's like, whoa, this is cool.
I mean, I think considering that I've been playing Sly 3, Lego Star Wars, and also watched my big brother play the Ratchet & Clank games, I think I kind of, you know, I don't know what it would say, but I guess I kind of made me grow appreciation for games that are generally pretty smooth in frame rate.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, thinking about it, yeah, Sly 3 was pretty smooth. Yeah, it's a good one. But yeah, honestly, unless you put them side by side, I probably wouldn't be able to tell sometimes. But then other times you have Deadly Premonition too.
Hmm.
Where, you know, it's just like a frame.
Yeah.
A second.
We're
Anyway, let's not
we're
get
probably getting a little out of hand here.
Yes. Anyway, so we got PS2 Sonic out of the way, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing I have issue with this game is I know you. Have you played the adventure games, Otis?
I have. I actually reinstalled Adventure 1 on my Xbox One because the Dreamcast collection actually works on there, which surprised me. So I'm looking forward to streaming that sometime. But yes, I played them fully to completion.
Okay.
Yeah, so
here's something about, it? Yeah, here's something about Sonic Heroes. The lack of Chow Garden. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't mind it.
Okay, it was one of those things I dabbled in, but I never, for instance, I never partook in the races because I never understood how they worked. It was just like a bunch of button bashing, and I guess it was just more like, oh, you go into the levels to, collect the little chaos drives and little animals. It's a fun side game, but I was actually genuinely surprised how much people were like really into that like little side game. I was like, okay, I just thought it was just a minor thing, but no, people really want it back. And I kind of see why. But what's really funny to me is that this is sort of related because having grown up with PS2 games being more commonplace, the only Chow Garden that was extensive on PS2 was via that one iToy game. Was it Sega Superstar? So basically, most of my game playing time was like a mix of Sonic Heroes PS2 and Sega Superstar. So you get to play the Chow Garden with a camera, and then not have it in the other game. It's just sort of like, what a weird double bill of just things to play. But yeah, honestly, the fact that the Sega haven't brought it. I mean, people have said this before. The fact that Sega haven't brought like Chow Garden back as at least an app or maybe like a handheld thing is just sort of puzzling to people. And it's like, I can see it.
Yeah, I believe it could work as an app too. Though I think the most recent time that Chow Garden was attempted to be brought back was at least in the Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, while it wasn't in the final product. It was definitely planned at one point before the game development to the game shifted to the Wii U and when everything went to shit.
I had no idea that would even be considered for that game.
I had no idea as well.
Yeah, when it was, I think it was a little before they got it was shifted to being a Sonic Boom game, and when it was called Sonic Synergy. And of course, as mentioned, it was also before the development was shifted from being developed for next-gen platforms to the Wii U.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, you never like Chow. I mean, actually, it's kind of funny that Balan Wonderworld technically has Chow, but they're called Tims, and they do nothing.
Yeah.
Just like, what a strange name for Chow. Like, Chow is memorable. What the hell is a Tims?
Tim Garden.
And they do nothing, whereas at least with Chow you can toss them around and it's funny. It sounds slightly sadistic.
Imagine people in the future. You remember the Tim Garden? Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Says no
I
one.
want it back for the next.
I actually used to get confused by the pronunciation of Chow. I thought it was just KO. Like chaos.
Huh. I mean, since I watched the Sonic X show back as a kid, the Chow that Cream has named Cheese would usually say Chow, so I pretty much knew that it was Chow.
Okay, fair enough. Ooh. But anyway, yeah, no, like Sega, we don't even know what they're doing with Sonic aside from like movies, like aside from those leaked movie shots, which honestly I'm pretty excited for, of the sequel. We don't know what they're doing game-wise.
I mean, there are rumors, and I mean, there are rumors, of course, but yeah, we're pretty unsure about what the next mainline Sonic game will be like.
Yeah, because honestly, that's a whole other can of worms as well.
Yeah.
It's just like it's too much. Sonic just brings on way too much discussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Sonic's.
We don't know until have to wait until like July until we know about what the next game is about. let's hope it's not a Sonic Forces scenario all over again.
Oh no! There was like
hope not.
I actually rebought Generations for Xbox One because I never finished it. I'm just like, I remember that being good, and CD.
Oh yeah, good games. Good games.
Yeah.
Generations is pretty much what brought me back to being a Sonic fan again back in 2012.
Yeah, I need to still finish Mania. I know it's not a long game, but basically, the Switch isn't my system, so I don't really get to use it. But like, next time I get it, I'll just play it through to completion because from what I tried, I really liked it.
Yeah, Mania.
Yeah, Vanilla Mania is pretty much a breeze to complete, but Mania Plus is pretty fucking hard.
Yeah, it's the cartridge version, so yeah, it's plus.
Anyways, let's get moving now.
No, hold on.
Should we split the recording here?
Yeah. Just want to say, in the end, I think those are all my thoughts. All our thoughts on Sonic Heroes. In short, not as good as the adventure games, and kind of nerve-wracking. And I can see why it never got remastered like the adventure games. I completed it, and I have no plans on doing it ever again. It's one and done for me.
Yeah, once is enough.
Yep.
Yeah, not gonna do it again.
Ugh.
Okay, so that was my pick, pretty much. I said my 2 cents about it. So let's move on with the Dark's picks. What do you got for us, Dark?
Alright, so as for my first pick, I have a Pokemon Black and White. A game that was released, or more like 2 games that were released on September 2010 in Japan and on March 2011 internationally for the original DS, and is developed by Game Freak. So, around the time that the Pokemon Direct that came out not so long ago, that showed off Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and the Shining Pearl, and also Pokemon Legends Arceus came around, I kind of started getting into Pokemon again, actually, as I was first playing Pokemon Platinum, and then Pokemon Black on my 3DS, and later on a DSi XL that I later acquired, as I want these good sharp pixels on a big screen, you know. So I played a Pokemon Black and White, and at first Gen 5 was which are Pokemon Black and White 1 and Black and White 2. Yes, it's a direct sequel, not a third version like Pokemon Emerald is to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, or Pokemon Crystal to Pokemon Gold and Silver, or the aforementioned Pokemon Platinum to Diamond and Pearl. It's an actual sequel, which I'll get into briefly later, but Gen 5 was at first not met with in a positive light, mainly due to Pokemon Black and White 1 not having Pokemon from previous gens that are available until post-game at least, with not even Pikachu being in the game, and also some of the designs have seen some flack as well, which I'll also get into a bit, but as of recent it has been gotten quite a bit of attention, and people are starting to call them the best Pokemon generation, and that's something I can agree with. And so first, let's start with the story. So, story in mainline Pokemon games have usually been there. This game of course follows the same formula as other Pokemon games story-wise. You're a trainer living in a small town, this time in the USA-inspired region, the Unova region. But this time, you don't have just one friend that becomes your rival, but 2 friends. Those of which being a Bianca, a clumsy but upbeat girl who wishes for adventure, despite her parents' objections, and that chooses a starter that's weak against yours, and Charon, who's a smart but more snarky guy, who chooses a starter that's strong against yours. And they all embark on a Pokemon journey fighting gym leaders and such. So yes, the tried and true structure of the story is there. But where the game's story shines is that first, I think the evil team, well, in quotes, Team Plasma, are actually pretty interesting. Their motives, as seen by the public in the game, is to liberate Pokemon from their trainers, as they think it's bad that Pokemon are being used as tools. I won't spoil here, but I can say that we later find out that their motives turn out to be more twisted than we initially thought as the game goes on. In addition, there's some actual character development between your rivals too, and the characters have more personality than most rivals in the series, which was almost non-existent in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald in particular, and that comes from someone who has nostalgia for those games. I also like the character N, the leader of Team Plasma. Despite being the leader of an evil team, he's not really a villain or a hero per se. He's more just someone who follows his own ideals, even if the player may not agree with everything he says, and grows a bigger understanding of the relationship between humans and Pokemon as someone who was raised by Pokemon as an orphan. He's definitely a character that sees the most clear development in any Pokemon game I have played, at least, and it's kind of why I think he's a good character, especially for a Pokemon game. Overall, while the story to the game isn't the best story of all time or anything, I think it's something special for a mainline Pokemon game, and it's rather engaging overall, which certainly says something considering that stories in Pokemon games aren't really held up in such a high regard. So, how's the gameplay? I'd say it's very much like other games in the series. It's an RPG where you catch Pokemon and build a team of Pokemon to take on other trainers, gym leaders, or even your friends, and you explore the world for items that'll aid you on your journey, such as potions or TMs and HMs. And occasionally, you take a break by visiting the game's towns and cities, talk to NPCs that'll either give you advice or give you items that could be useful. And of course, you also fight gyms along the way as well, where you collect gym badges so you can take on the Pokemon champion. Pokemon have up to 4 moves they can learn either through leveling up or by using TMs or HMs, and a couple that can also evolve to a stronger version of themselves through leveling up or some other methods such as using a stone or trading. Pokemon battles have this rock, paper, scissors type of gameplay where every type is either weak or strong against another type, such as fire being weak to water, water being weak to grass, and fire being strong to grass, grass being strong against water, and water being strong against grass, etc. And with certain Pokemon have different type combinations that either make them extra resistant or extra weak to a certain move. But that which depends on the type. But there are new features and mechanics that'll make this entry more fresh compared to the last game. Most notably, the introduction of reusable TMs, which is a godsend because in the past, you could only use a TM once, and you couldn't use it anymore. So say, for example, you want to learn a Pokemon a certain move, you learn a move to a certain Pokemon, but since you use that TM, you can learn the same move to another Pokemon. In this game, you can use it as much as you want and learn that move to any Pokemon that you want that can learn it, of course. There's also the addition of triple battles, which is a natural evolution to the double battles that was introduced in Generation 3, or also known as Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. And then there's also rotation battles, which aren't as cool in my opinion, at least execution-wise. And compared to the generation before this one, this game feels much faster to play as well. While the overworld is at 30 FPS, the battles are at 60 FPS, which makes the battles feel much smoother. There's no space between when the Pokemon takes a hit and when their life bar goes down. and it doesn't. And there's no space between when the Pokemon takes a hit and when their life bar goes down, meaning the life bar goes down immediately when the Pokemon gets hit, and it's kind of it definitely speeds up the game. And plus, the overall game doesn't feel like a slog to play either. The whole game paced pretty well, with little to no backtracking needed, and HM usage to progress in the game is only reserved to just one part in the game, and that's it. And that's one part where you use Surf. Otherwise, HMs are just used to travel more conveniently or to get more items. And the only real padding in the game is grinding your Pokemon, which is now faster than before, thanks to an item you can give your Pokemon called the Lucky Egg, which doubles EXP gain when you defeat a Pokemon, and certain Pokemon like Audino can give you a boatload of EXP if you defeat it. It's the gameplay many people will be familiar with, but refined even more. And plus it doesn't have gimmicks that are like only relevant for one gen, such as with X and Y with the Mega Evolutions, or Sun and Moon with the Z's, or most recently Sword and Shield with the Gigamax Pokemon. So it's I feel it's like the last Pokemon that doesn't rely on gimmicks that are used to marketed on the front. And the graphics are very good for the DS. Being released late into the DS's life cycle, Game Freak now have learned the hardware enough to squeeze as much out of the DS as possible. While it's not the first game in the mainline series to feature 3D graphics, it takes what they already have done in the last Pokemon generation and took it to a whole new level. 3D worlds are even bigger and more dynamic, with a more dynamic camera emphasizing the scale of some of the places in the game, and there are parts of the game where you cross bridges just so that the devs can flex how good looking their game is, with camera that either shifts angles or zooms in and out, accompanied with some great music. The battles also see a big upgrade visually, with Pokemon not just being a sprite that only see animation when they're sent out, but instead move at all times, making them look more alive in a 3D arena, with the dynamic camera moving around and zooming in on the Pokemon when they do a move. I dig games that has an aesthetic with 2D sprites in a 3D environment. It gives the game a unique and timeless look to it, and Pokemon Gen 4 and Gen 5 are no exceptions to this. Gen 5 was the last Pokemon generation to feature sprites too, and many people including me missed them. Not to say that Pokemon being fully 3D doesn't work, but the rather average graphics in Sword and Shield kinda makes me miss the look of Pokemon from Gen 5 and earlier. Another thing about the game I really like is the sound. First, the music I'd say is pretty nice. Not all the songs are quite memorable, but a chunk of the OST is definitely very good and have their own atmosphere and sound that no other game in the series has. It has songs that either have a more grand and orchestral sound to it, atmospheric sound that suits the environment, or that goes full on electronic dance club sounding in some of its battle themes. It's at its best quite the soundtrack that's worth a listen. Some of my favorite songs in the OST are Dragon Spiral Tower, which some call me Johnny has tweeted about, saying that it reminded him directly of Chrono Trigger, which is kinda interesting. And then there's the gym leader battle theme, Route 10, which is probably my favorite, Lost Lorn Forest, Elite 4 battle theme, and a theme to the legendary Pokemon that aren't just Reshiram or Zekrom, the Pokemon that are in the game's front cover. The overall OST sounds pretty high quality for the DS, with good samples and songs that you'd probably never expect to hear from a Pokemon game. The general sound design is another aspect I like about the game, mainly because of how the player can interact with sound in the game. One example I really like is that in Akumula town, you get this cheerful and happy music, But when you go into the house of a girl that plays piano and a boy that plays drums, you can talk to the girl and a piano track is added to the song. And when you talk to the boy, you get a drum track added. And I'm not done yet. When a gym leader is down to his or her last Pokemon, instead of the normal gym leader battle theme still playing, a type of arrangement of the main theme to the Pokemon series plays instead, which makes the battle more epic, as it acts as a form of last stand to the gym leader and a road to victory for the player. It adds excitement to these gym leader battles. And in a couple of the routes, you can hear drums that sounds like something from a marching band when you start to move, and it stops when you stop. It's such a cool thing that I miss about in Pokemon games. It's small details like this that adds to the game, and it's a part of why I think Gen 5 is great. I want to be wrong on this, but I don't think I've seen this in X and Y or Sun and Moon, which are the games after Gen 5 I played at least. I haven't played Sword and Shield, so if they have it, I'd be damned. Also, I really like a lot of the Pokemon in the game. A lot of them from the starters to many other Pokemon. Some of my favorites are Volcarona, which is a moth that's fire and bug type, so it's pretty much a fire moth. Who can not like that? And then there's Bisharp, a dark and steel type, which is a Pokemon with that kind of have blades, sort of blades around the body, which is another Pokemon I think has a cool design. And then there's Hydreigon, who's literally like King Ghidorah from Godzilla, complete with 3 heads and that flies. Only that it's blue and black. And then there's Golurk, which is like a big blue ancient colossus. It's a rather majestic Pokemon. It also has many actually good bug types, which is a type that only has about 1 or 2 that are actually worth a damn for each generation. Some examples being Scolciopede, which is poison and bug type, which is pretty much like a big caterpillar, and then there's Leaveney, which is a bug type that kind of has kind of hard to explain, but it kind of has two blades on each arm, which I really like. And then there's the aforementioned Volcarona. So as much as I've been pricing the game, they're of course not perfect. There are some flaws, not many to mention, but there are some. First, while it's not a big problem to me, it could be a problem to others. And it was certainly something that peeved off many back in the day, as mentioned, me included initially. And that is that, as I mentioned, the lack of Pokemon from previous generations, before post-game at least. Throughout the game, there are only Gen 5 Pokemon, whether you like them or not. And also, as mentioned, not even the mascots, not even the Pokemon mascot Pikachu is anywhere to be seen. This can vary from people to people. I actually think it's not a bad idea. It's like a form of reboot of the series, which explains why the routes in the game, instead of following up on Gen 4 by starting with Route 301 and go from there, it's back to Route 1 and onwards. I also think it's kind of refreshing to see a Pokemon game do the complete opposite of nostalgia pandering, which Gen 6 like to do, but I can see that being a problem with some people. As for actual complaints I think I have a problem with the post-game city, depending on which version of the game you have. In black it's Black City, and in white it's White Forest. If you don't want these places to be barren, you pretty much have to beat the game in a few days as possible, as the population in these cities reduces as more days passes by, which is kind of bullshit. And if they're empty, you need to go to Entralink, which is an online thing I guess that you can't do anymore, and link with some people with the opposite version of your game. Thankfully, it doesn't have essential content that extends playtime, but it's still kind of bullshit. And then there's some of the Pokemon design-wise. At first, I was a little mixed on them. Some I liked, some that were forgettable. While I've come to appreciate the Pokemon in this generation even more after replaying Pokemon Black, it's not to say that all of them are winners. There are some rather forgettable Pokemon, and I'm not here to pick on the Pokemon that some really like to pick on back in the day, such as the Vanillite line, aka the Ice Creams, and the Trubbish line, aka the Trash Bags. Rather, I'm here to say that there are some I don't care much for, such as Durant, which is an iron ant that only appears in Victory Road, and that's it. And Emolga, who's like the 100th Pikachu knockoff in the series. And it's just an electric flying squirrel that has the same mouth and eyes as Pikachu. I also didn't like the rotation battles that much, because you're rotating Pokemon, it becomes unpredictable on which Pokemon you end up hurting. And you can be rotating to a Pokemon only for it to be facing a Pokemon that's weak against it. And then it's potentially getting its ass kicked by that Pokemon. And it's not good. Triple battles is all that was needed, really. Overall, Pokemon Black and White are great games that did something ambitious for the series and succeeded at it. It's a very well executed game with a pretty engaging story for a Pokemon game, tight gameplay, good challenge, and some of the best music in the series. It's definitely worthy of your attention. And also check out its sequel, Pokemon Black and White 2, which while it's very much back to basics with its story, has even more content, and it's not just a third version that makes the two initially released versions obsolete, as mentioned. It's a direct sequel with new cities and towns to explore, new gym leaders from Pokemon from previous gen being available in the main campaign, and a lot of post-game content in addition. Gen 5 as a whole is the best Pokemon generation in my opinion. So
I didn't want to interrupt you there because honestly it sounded like you had all the facts in place, whereas with my Pokemon knowledge, I know barely anything. So I think you pretty much explained like the best of it.
Huh. Yeah.
No, it's fascinating, honestly. But no, the mentioning that stuff basically with games like Black and White, honestly, I kind of forget. It makes me forget how many there are in the series, because the only ones I've ever really touched extensively were Colosseum and a bit of a bootleg cartridge of Fire Red. That's my entire knowledge of Pokemon, and maybe some of the spin-offs have my interest, like Snap, which we have the new one coming, thankfully, because people wanted a Wii U one.
Yeah, new Pokemon Snap looks pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah. I'd like an N64 cart, but I might just emulate it or something. I don't know. I would have got it on like the Wii shop, but I never really bought anything off there, so whatever. It's mostly the spin-offs, because I don't know. I think with like any sort of turn-based RPG, with me personally, I'm very picky on them, because I went across. Because aside from Pokemon, which ones have you tried?
I have pretty much played a lot of Pokemon. I haven't beaten the Gen 1, but I have beaten Gen 2 up to Gen 7. So I think my knowledge is somewhat extensive, at least.
Yeah. There's also like, I mean, in terms of like other non-Pokemon RPGs, usually I'm like hit and miss with them. Really, it's like, I liked Colosseum from what I tried because I think that had like a slight. I mean, have you ever played Colosseum yourself?
No, but I played a little bit of its follow-up, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness.
I did not like that one really as much. I think because with XD, with Colosseum that had the whole. I don't know. I think something about its style kind of interested me more. Like it was a little more. I don't know. I wouldn't call it dark, but it was just sort of like. I think because it was that nostalgia of having it as, like, literally the GameCube game that came packed in with my GameCube. That I sort of had this like I'm a little more fond of it, whereas any other like sort of basically the influx of DS and 3DS ones for me were like, oh, which one do I go to? I have a copy of Moon sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, is this a good one? I don't know.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, Sun and Moon I think are good, but you probably should be getting Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. They're pretty much better
That's another
versions
problem.
of
It's like,
these.
do I have to upgrade my version now? It's like, it's overwhelming. It's like, I don't know. I've not seen so many RPG upgrades since Shin Megami Tensei. They're re-releasing the one with Dante.
Yeah.
I know that the big meme.
Yeah, I know.
The fact they're re-releasing that in HD is great.
Yeah.
They actually remastered the little sticker, not on the box.
Yeah, they
though,
even
but, like,
they even remastered the little sticker and even released it on their blog.
yeah, it's just like but basically that's like with any sort of, because I'm more of an action RPG person rather than turn-based.
Yeah,
so for me, Pokemon is sort of a hard sell, because what I've always wanted to see from a Pokemon game myself, this is slightly on topic, slightly off. You ever played Folklore for the PS3?
Which one?
Ooh, this was a forgotten title. Basically, it was like Pokemon, but as if the Pokemon were like mapped to button attacks.
Ah, yeah.
Like if you're playing as the trainer, that's the sort of game I've always wanted to see from Pokemon, and probably the sort of one that would like sort of engage me more personally, because with turn-based stuff, I'm very finicky with that sort of thing. Like, I like Persona 4 from what I tried, because that was a little more engaging, and Paper Mario, while turn-based, you have those little actions, whereas with Pokemon, it never really had, the ones I tried never really had, aside from Colosseum, never really had a narrative that gripped me personally. I mean, it's great that people are into it as well. I mean, you've got all the facts about Black and White, because honestly, I kind of forgot there was a 2.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't sure if it was like a version 2, is it a sequel? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, well,
like,
as mentioned, Black and White 2 are direct sequels.
Yeah, because I kind of figure, because it's not like version 2, whereas when I hear like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I'm like, okay, is it upgrade, is it sequel, what is this? At least at first glance, I mean, like, you look it up and, you mostly get all the info, but then, like, I just hear it offhand, or I think, because I didn't even know, what was that other one aside, like the other Switch one that's coming, Arceus?
Oh yeah, Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yeah,
that's kind of a standalone. It's kind of a standalone thing. It's not like the mainline Pokemon games.
Yeah, because like I was gonna play Sword and Shield because it was like, oh, it's another fully 3D one, but then, more and more controversy came out about it, and also like the whole DLC thing. It's just like, I don't know, would I buy this again? I don't know, because the thing is, I've already got a lot of games on my plate, and it's like, should I invest in this? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and
I'm gonna wait until the inevitable Pokemon Gun release.
Pokemon Gun?
The Pokemon Gun, and the joke is that there has usually been sometimes been a third version of a Pokemon game, like with, as I mentioned before, with Pokemon Gold and Silver, there's Pokemon Crystal, and then with Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, there's Emerald, and Diamond and Pearl, there's Platinum. People have been making jokes about that. The third version to the newest generation of Pokemon, which are Sword and Shield, would be Pokemon Gun.
Oh my god. No, it's the Scabbard version next.
I mean, I guess Scabbard would work.
Nah, but it's the lame part of the sword. I mean, it protects it, sure, but it's not a weapon. But like,
I mean, I guess Gun's even cooler though.
Yeah, I mean, adding to my Pokemon indifference, what was funny was when I was younger, I didn't realize Pokemon was a game. I just thought it was a show, like a show. I had no idea it had a video game attached. Seriously, all I knew about was the anime, the movies. I was like, wait, there's games for this?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of how there were a few people I knew of who didn't know Sonic was a video game series because they were most familiar with the Sonic X series.
Oh, and they're like, where's Chris in the game? Oh no, he's a billboard in DX.
I think it's for the best.
Yes, I agree. Anyway, that's like that. No more.
Oh
Sonic,
god, Sonic keeps creeping up in our conversations.
He's the hedgehog who never stops running.
Yeah. Anyway,
so yeah, you seem to have your thoughts together about this particular Pokemon. Cyril, any opinion on this?
For me, I'm a casual when it comes. For me, I'm a casual when it comes to Pokemon. I only played for the mainline Pokemon games. I only played Pokemon Blue when I was a kid. and a bootleg version of Pokemon Gold, and for like 70,
Pokemon bootleg,
yeah,
hand in hand.
75% of Pokemon X on the 3DS, and that's about it.
Nice.
So yeah,
Okay.
Black and White. I missed it, but I'm aware of some of its elements, like the fact that you can only play as a Gen 5 Pokemon. Personally, I think that was a bold idea, but I think after it got backlash from the fans, they never did this ever again. Which is why in other gens you get to see all the old Pokemons again alongside the new ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all of them, but it's definitely selection. I mean, it's always been kind of like that, though, anyway.
And that kind of reminds me of the controversy about not being able to trade your own not being able to get your own Pokemon from the previous games and Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah. I think there's also the controversy of not having a national dex, which was something that was given to you after you beaten the game.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I hear it and I'm like, okay, I kind of know what people are talking about with, like, you know, decks and like selection. Oh, hang on. I thought my PC shut off.
Yeah.
I went to
Damn.
pick up the black because I didn't touch my mouse for a while. Sorry, go on.
Anyway, and I think it's even more egregious when the reason they state why they did that is to improve on animation and animation models, even though it's a complete lie because they're the same exact models with the same exact animations, with newer textures maybe, but still the same models with the same animations.
Yeah.
So lifted from 3DS?
Yeah, it's lifted from the 3DS versions pretty much, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because again, having not touched the 3DS ones, I wouldn't have known the visual difference or performance. Basically, to me, like, I was just sort of like a casual observer, really. It's just like I'd occasionally hear about all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, what are they doing wrong this time?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
is Black and White one you'd want to see remade if possible, but
I mean, to be honest, I don't think I want to see a remake of it, to be honest. Considering that considering that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl kind of looks meh.
I'd actually have to look up an image to like remind myself how it looks because I kind of forgot about them. But so like, what did they change the sprites to 3D models?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that they're 3D models. It's just it looks pretty cheap. Shining Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl literally look like 3DS games upscale in HD.
No.
So
It kind of reminds me of when, related to Nintendo RPGs, the Mario, was it Mario All Stars for the 3DS? Like they somehow made the visuals more generic and worse. Like it wasn't not Mario All Stars. It was like Superstar Saga. It was like the old GBA Mario RPG, like on 3DS. It somehow looks worse and less colourful than the GBA game it's based on. But at least that's still all sprites. So I don't know. Something about like some visual upgrades are warranted, but when like you change the art style, it tends to like screw things up.
Yeah, I can
Across
see
the
that.
board. Yeah, but basically, if it's like a low budget, if it makes it look like a lower budget remake, then it's like kind of deflates the significance of the original.
Yeah. So, now that I've hopefully motivated you guys to probably take a look at Pokemon Black and White or Gen 5 as a whole, we're now moving back to Sony, or more precisely, a game they've made, which is Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
So Ghost of Tsushima released in August of last year, actually, exclusively on the PS4, and it's developed by Sucker Punch. Now, Sucker Punch have made Sly Cooper games, which and Sly 3 on the PS2 in particular, being one of my first home console games, along with Lego Star Wars, as prior to me and my big bro getting PS2 in 2005, I was mainly gaming on portable consoles. Mainly the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, with games such as Pokemon, Mario, Kirby, Nightmare in Dreamland, and some shitty licensed trash, along with some decent licensed games. And occasionally games on my family's computers such as Rayman 2, The Great Escape, and countless Flash games online. Good times.
Nice, all the good Flash.
Yeah. So anyways, so the story pretty much goes like this. It takes place in old Japan around 1274, and you play as Jin Sakai, who's a samurai and the head of a samurai clan who's in a war with the Mongolians, with Kotu Khan, the grandson of the well-known Genghis Khan, leading them on the island of Tsushima. The battle goes to shit, the army's dead, and Jin is thought to be dead, only that he isn't dead. But the Mongols have taken over Tsushima, and Jin's uncle is taken captive by them. So Jin goes to the Mongol stronghold and fights Khotun head-on, only to fail. And since he can't defeat Khotun on his own, he needs to plot out a plan and find allies to help him fight Khotun and get his uncle back. And that's about as much as I can say about the story, as I haven't beaten the game yet. And I don't want to spoil too much anyway. It's honestly not a story I pay too much on, really. Though I do like the setting, which is based, or at least inspired by Japanese history and folklore. And that's about it.
Mentioning
There
that,
were some-
do you remember the pagoda thing? Have you heard about this pagoda thing with okay, so I think there was something where in Japan, people playing Ghost of Tsushima, like it reignited interest in trying to restore this old traditional Japanese pagoda in Japan.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was. I'm pretty sure it was called a pagoda, but like basically it's like the little archway. I think it's like on the place that inspired it, and it's just I just thought it was neat to hear. But okay, I mean, before we mentioned the story and such, like this was something that was bothering me in the back of my head. Do you remember the Sony, I think, presentation about it when they first showed this off, like very very early on? Flute Man.
Yeah.
That was a weird first impression for that game because I had no idea what to think at the point, because it was just sort of this awkward thing with people being shuffled into different rooms, and then like you have this man playing like a flute. It's like, is this a game? What is this? And it's like, oh look, it's a new Sucker Punch thing. Because to me, like Sucker Punch are like a weird studio, because like, after Sly, they sort of they went into like 3 Infamous games, and then like a big sort of like what felt like a little bit of a gap. Then they pop up with Tsushima. It's like, oh cool, they got a new IP here.
Yeah.
Although I do sort of miss Infamous in a way, because I really wish, like Ratchet, they'd re-release the first 2. I mean, Second Son was pretty good, but could have been better. But yeah, I'll mention that another time.
Yeah, I mean, plus, unlike Naughty Dog and Insomniac, they actually didn't have their start on the original PlayStation. They had their start on a Nintendo 64 with a game called Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Yeah,
released in 1999.
One of those games I wanted to try emulating and maybe see if I could get working. I mean, look neat, and I think it's like, in a way, like predecessor to Sly's art style in a way, in a very rough sort of manner.
Yeah, you can at least see that the same artist has drawn some of the material.
Yeah. Anyways, I have a bunch of his art in my reference folders, but that's another story.
Anyway, I need to get him back on track on my script, on my notes here.
Fair enough.
So though I do like the setting, which is based or at least inspired by Japanese history and folklore, and that's about it. Then there were some stuff in the story I liked, but maybe it's just me. But I honestly wasn't very engaged with the story outside of a couple of elements. There isn't much to say when it comes to the main story, at least. Though I did like the story in the side quests more, as it was more emotional, such as with one character whose troops and or sons have died in the war against the Mongols, and my favorite, someone disguising as a samurai to get the attention of the ladies. only to get his ass scared by Jin, and is being told to run away and never see the ladies again. The ladies are then told that he went out on his own path. So the main story is kinda meh, but the side stories are at least pretty interesting. So, how about the gameplay? Well, this is where the game's engaging, as a video game should be. It's an open world adventure that has the typical bells and whistles you'd expect from a game of its kind. You explore a vast world where you can uncover locations such as villages, caves and such. You find hidden collectibles, take on side missions, fight enemies along the way, and you go about at your own pace. It's actually a pretty engaging game to play despite it being open world. And these kinds of games can be a bit too much to me usually. But due to how well it plays, it's one I can at least stomach. Its swordplay is pretty damn good, as while it's not deep per se, it's pretty fun and still challenging, at least on hard difficulty. You have light attacks and heavy attacks that have their uses, where light attacks are of course faster but doesn't deal a lot of damage, while heavy attacks are stronger but isn't as fast. You can also unlock different stances in the game, such as water stance, which is good for quickly breaking them enemies' defenses when you use strong attacks, and I'd say it's comparable to something like the fighting styles in Yakuza, as they of course provide different moves useful for each scenario due to how unique they are and can be changed on the fly. You can also pair your block moves, which of course is important, as it's a part of how you defend yourself, and if there are moves that you can't block or parry, then you dodge. When an enemy hasn't seen you yet, you can do a standoff where you hold down the triangle button and wait. The enemy may fake a bit, but he's fake that he's moving, and the camera is moving while the screen is letterboxed. And then, when the enemy is about to strike you, you release the triangle button and you slash your enemy in a satisfying way. And thus commences the battle against the other Mongolians or maybe other Japanese army dudes or whatever. As you play the game, you also learn new techniques that you previously weren't able to do, such as, for example, being able to parry moves that you previously weren't able to parry before, and much more. You also gain new throwable weapons as well, such as the kunai, which can leave your enemies open for attacks for a certain amount of time, and smoke bombs, which lets you escape like a ninja. And of course, you can't have a modern game without stealth. You'll learn how to do assassinations through one of the first main quests, as it's just like most other games. You go behind an enemy, press the square button, and you pretty much stab the enemy to death. Pretty simple. Once you learn more techniques and learn how to play the game itself, it's pretty satisfying to take on a big group of Mongols or other opposing Japanese forces without dying, and especially taking a hit. It makes you feel like a true samurai warrior. You occasionally also find foxes that can lead you to fox dens that open up charm slots, which lets you equip charms that have their own perks, such as a slight increase in attack power and more. You can also find golden birds, which can lead you to, for example, shrines or places that have not been discovered by you yet. And the town folks can also help you on your journey by upgrading your gear if you have the right amount of supplies, which is where collecting stuff such as bamboo, supplies and iron comes in handy, as it makes your weapons and your different armors that each are better at something, such as not just using your sword but also using your bow and arrow. There's quite a lot to unpack in this game, but the main gist of it is that it's a big world to explore and you're just being a samurai doing samurai things on the way. As for the graphics, it's fantastic. While it may not be quite as detailed as something like, say, The Last of Us Part 2, it's still pretty realistic and detailed for an open world game. The game is inspired by old Japanese samurai movies, so so it should nail that old Japanese aesthetic, which it does. The camera angles are striking, and even in places such as forests, everything feels Japanese. On top of that, it looks very stylistic with strong use of colors and distinct use of flowers and grass to give the game its own identity to stand out among the crowd of open world ventures. And with the photo mode, you can create some striking screenshots of the game. It's also such a beautiful game that's hard to describe. Additionally, you can toggle a feature that lets you play the game with a filter that makes it look like an old samurai movie, complete with sound that comes out of an old complete with the black and white screen, complete with the black and white filter and film grain, and also sound that kind of sounds compressed and makes it sound like an old movie as well. Not something I want to turn on, but if you love old samurai movies, there's something for you to love. And if you have the PS4, if you have a PS4 Pro, you can choose between running the game at a higher frame rate, which makes the game run at 1080p, but makes the game run at a more stable 30 FPS, or at a checkerboard at 4K, which is a resolution in between 1080p or 4K. That's then upscaled to 4K. Or if you have a PS5, which I'm fortunate enough to actually own, believe it or not, you can play the game at 60 FPS at a checkerboard at 4K, and it feels pretty nice. Really makes me wish to see even more PS4 games get the same treatment that this game, along with Days Gone, God of War 2018, and the 2016 remake of Ratchet & Clank got. The sound is superb as well, with music that suits the Japanese setting seamlessly with oriental instruments, though nothing quite memorable, however, in my opinion at least, and sound effects that have a strong oomph to them, such as sword slashing enemies, clashing with an opponent's shield, or an arrow darting through you, or even more sounds such as soft and gentle sound effects that add to the game's atmosphere, which also includes animal sounds, the wind, which includes animal sounds such as bird singing, the wind breezing, and more. The Japanese voice acting is very well done as well, although the game's lip-synced to the English voice acting, which is a bit of a bummer. I know it's a Western developed game, and maybe many would be choosing to play the game in English, but still, a game that takes place in Japan would be most suitable to have lip synced to Japanese voice acting. As for complaints, as mentioned, I didn't care much for this main story, so far at least. It's kinda whatever to me. The side missions are where I find the story the most interesting. And also, the missions can get a little repetitive after a while, as you notice that you're sometimes doing certain missions repeatedly quite a bit. You talk to this person, do some busy work, and get back to this person again, though that's kind of a problem with open world games in general. At least this game provides different stories for each mission so that you're not doing the same busy work over and over for no reason, and to make them feel like they have a form of meaning. Also, some of the enemies can straight up go and fuck off, especially those with spears. It's a nitpick, but I still wish that I don't have to lose steam after running after a while. Maybe that's a technique of some kind later on, who knows, but it's still something I found to be a bit annoying. Though at least you can call your horse at any time to make exploration more of a breeze, which is of course a plus, thus making running kinda obsolete in places where at least in places where you can use your horse, which is many places. Overall, Ghost of Tsushima is so far a very intriguing experience. Despite being some of the less intriguing kinds of games to me, which is being an open world game, it may just be your typical open world game with stuff to collect, long stretches to explore, and some samey missions. It stands out thanks to its striking visuals, tight combat, cool world and unique exploration. If you want to give your PS4 or PS4 Pro one last hurrah before you eventually get a PS5, if you can even find one at one point in time, then go ahead and buy it. I'd also recommend it to anyone that's into Japanese culture. It has a pretty authentic way of presenting it too. And it's even being praised by people of Japan as well. Plus, if you have a PS5, it's great to play on a machine thanks to the boost to 60 FPS. It's a game where you'll feel like a samurai. What's not to like?
Because I know that this came out around the same time as... Was Sekiro Shadows Die twice around the same time?
No, not really. I mean,
no.
Maybe they were.
I think it was before.
Maybe they were announced somewhat around the same time.
Because I remember like being, ooh, which one do I get? Then I thought, nah, Tsushima. Because basically, I played enough like Souls games to be like, you know, I kind of fancy something a little bit different. I don't even own a copy of Sekiro yet, but it has interested me because I have enjoyed Sucker Punch's output so far. So I like, you know, I'm just thinking, yeah, sure, I'll go in for another one. I only have a standard PS4, so I don't know how the performance will be. I'm sure it'll be fine.
I mean, I've seen the game dip around somewhere below 30, but it shouldn't be unplayable. You should still get a good time at least.
Yeah, because like it's not going to be one of those double disc Blu-ray games that's like 100 gigabytes, I assume.
Nah, I mean it's not like The Last of Us Part 2. It's a one disc.
Good. Yeah, because like I only have so much install space. I have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Even with a 2 terabyte like USB hard drive, but yeah, no, look, I liked what I saw of it as well. Like, would you recommend? Because yeah, you mentioned something with the language options. So, can you play it all in Japanese dialogue, or?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, because I probably just end up doing that because I played the Yakuza games, and you know that makes sense to do so. You know, just like switch the subtitles on.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean of course in a Japanese setting it's just a no-brainer for me to play in Japanese.
Like, is the English voice acting like delivered well, or does it feel out of place?
I don't know. I have not played a game in English at all. I've played it in Japanese from the start. The only thing I know is that the lip syncing, as mentioned, is more synced to the English version. Yeah,
that might be very strange. I probably might not notice it at first. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's slightly off on that bit." I mean, the filter thing sounds cool because I think I gifted my brother a copy of Seven Samurai, which I heard is like not Seven. Was it Seven? Yeah, it was Seven Samurai, which I think is like an early famous one I need to watch. So I'm thinking if I enjoy that, I might flick on the filter, try it for a little bit, then like turn it off because then I'll have to see if it's playable for long stretches with it.
Yeah.
I never played the Ghost of Tsushima, but I know my nephew played it, and he completed it, and he loved it so much. And I might get it one day and play it myself.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it earned a reward as well, Game Awards or something.
Well, it didn't win it. I mean, because The Last of Us Part 2 won it, but it was at least nominated. But I think that can be the same thing can kind of be said of other games such as Hades.
Yeah, another game I need to get to. Switch Cart. Hey, at least that was a thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I actually got myself a copy of Hades in a local store, despite local stores in my country being closed for them at the moment.
I mean, hey, if you were able to get one Switch game, that seems like a worthwhile one.
Yeah. The reason I even managed to get this game from one open local store is because that local store sells Japanese food and candies, and since the last time they had to close down, it went out of date. So, and if they were to close it down again, it would probably go out of date again. So they were an exception to this.
That's a real rush for time, but man. But yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm glad it still holds. Sounds like a good time. Because honestly, with any sort of open world game, I've barely scratched the surface of things like Horizon, which the time I think it's still free on PlayStation Network at the moment. I have a physical copy.
Yeah,
I have the game on.
Yeah.
I have the game on. Yeah, I have the game on the PS4 as well, and also fairly recently acquired it on PC on GOG as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did that. Yeah, it was like Epic or something. Like they could get some PS4 games through it.
Yeah, I mean it's not exclusive on Epic Game Store, at least, thank God. It's on Steam. It's also on Epic Game Store, but it's not exclusive there. And as I mentioned, it's on GOG.
Nice. So that means there's like a DRM-free version of a PS4 game.
Yep.
On that's very weird to me. I'd have no space to download it, but it's an option.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's Sony's coverage of backwards compatibility. If you just happen to have a very powerful PC.
Yeah.
But no, I'm mostly strictly console, except for point and clicks.
All right, so those were Dark's picks. We're finally now moving on to Otis's picks. What do you got for us?
Okay, so I'm starting with Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition.
Okay.
Yes. Long ass title, good ass game.
Is it?
So yeah, basically, I heard of this through Some Call Me Johnny, and I thought, yeah, this looks like good fun.
Me too, actually.
Huh?
Me too, actually.
Yeah, no, I think it's because like he shared the same name with the protagonist.
One.
Yes. But yeah, no. I'll briefly mention the story because that's like a minor part of the game. It's still a fun little narrative, but it's like it's more about the gameplay and stuff. So this game is a Metroidvania style game. You play as Juan, a farmer who dons a magical luchador mask to stop the evil Carlos Calaca, an evil skeleton man, and his goons after he kidnaps the president's daughter. Simple plot. Set up for like essentially one of the more refined Metroidvanias I tried, because I found things like Super Metroid a little tricky to get into, whereas games that were inspired by it with modern sensibilities sort of like refined the whole pattern, because being given a large map with areas locked off and powers to use on them, older titles of that ilk I find a little tricky to play now, even things like Symphony of the Night, which I do want to give more of a chance. I mean, have either of you tried those games at all?
No, never played.
Like Metroid.
I've played a little bit of Symphony of the Night, but I haven't really scratched a dent of much of a dent of progress in that game yet. Yeah. And I also played Dawn of Sorrow, which I
like the look of the DS ones, but there's like so many of them and they're expensive. So
yeah, I also played Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which I've played more of. It's been which I think is pretty damn good. It's definitely a true spiritual successor, unlike Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, I need to play Bloodstained because it seemed like the less of the disaster. But yeah, with Guacamelee, I didn't hear of anything really going wrong. It was it was just like straightforward. Here's a game we have with a cool art style. Let's release it. In fact, going on to the art style, which is the most striking thing about the game, it's all outlineless. It's like reminiscent of Samurai Jack, with locations and creatures inspired by Mexican culture and folklore. So you can it's got like a nice variety of locations. You've got large mountains, little populated villages, and deserts as well. And then among like forests, caves, you sort of go all over the place in this game. There's a pretty extensive like map that shows off everything. And also unlike a lot of those like predecessor Metroidvanias, you kind of know where you're actually going now because everything's a bit more clear. There are some cryptic things here and there where you're like, okay, I guess I can't go there yet, but then it's like more obvious once you unlock a certain power. Actually, bringing up those towns, a funny thing about it, I can't remember when it was released, 2014?
I believe it was 2013.
2013, yeah. There's a lot of memes. There's a lot of meme billboards in the town that you visit.
Rage
comics. Rage comics.
Yeah, I
It's just
remember.
like, I mean, it doesn't. It both kind of dates it, but at the same time, it's like, it's okay. It's acceptable. This is acceptable meme because at least they kind of make it stylized to the world. It's very strange though. Like, just you go through and it's like, oh look, suddenly there's Grumpy Cat on a billboard in the background.
I remember seeing a Mega Man reference, like Mega Hombre.
Yeah, among others. I think it was like Mario Brothers as well, but that's always like that's like a typical reference you gotta get out of the way in most games.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, no. So on top of like the really striking visual design of the areas you visit, you have some like really cool character designs I found. The villain Flame Face is a highlight. Is just essentially a guy with a flaming face, and like one of the funniest characters actually as well. I know. I think basically because he was basically pissed off at everyone, and, like especially one when like I think if you like beat him at like a certain thing, he basically just shoots up everything. Like, in rage, but like yeah, it's just also like the there's an old man goat who helps you. He's like an old. He's basically he shows up after you destroy things called Chuzu statues to gain power, and he's basically mad every time you punch one, and like throughout the game he gets more and more complacent. It's like, okay, I guess you destroyed another one. Here's your power. So it's like a good sense of humor with this game that I'm probably not selling well because it's very in the moment, shall we say. But as you're playing it, it's more like it's funny that I'm making it than I'm making it sound.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
also, I want to add that there's one Chuzu statue that you break, and you get absolutely nothing, and they kind of play it out like you got nothing. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, what I also liked about this game's gameplay was that the main hook of it, like with a name like Guacamelee, there's a lot of focus on fighting. So essentially, you'll face enemies out in the overworld and in designated arenas you have to beat to progress. So they'll like lock you off in like a little arena to fight. And what's cool is on top of the regular punches, you get if you stun an enemy long enough, you can hit triangle to essentially pick them up and throw them, which adds so many like possibilities to like you can just chuck enemies into other enemies, into pits, into spikes, just kind of deal with them, and you can be very strategic with them as well. Like there are certain enemies that have there's these enemies that explode after like a set time, and they'll like damage you even if you're like nowhere near them. So essentially you can use like another enemy to like throw them into there if there's any around, and basically prioritize what gets damaged first. And it's good fun. And the combat moves actually extend into the platforming as well, which thankfully you're not given any lives. Like you fall down a pit, you just respawn at the last stable surface that you're on, and that's a massive relief, because having to fall down some of these mountains you have to traverse would be like a massive pain in the ass. Because like with things like Super Metroid, I'm pretty sure it's mostly caverns, but even then it's like you miss a jump and you have to like, oh no, you have to like power walk the jump all the way again. I mean, you have things like the because you're not naturally you unlock moves as you go. There's things like a typical wall jump, but also like later on like a wall dash, which is incredibly helpful for long vertical surfaces. You won't go up every single one because there are some that are not entirely flat. But and also like a move that like will project you off a wall like a rocket, and that leads to some fun improvisation with like hidden items, especially because if you launch yourself from like a far wall, you'll like rocket across, and then if you quickly dash up another, you can like find like hidden nooks and crannies to essentially find new power-ups, heart containers and extra power meters and such. Good use of unlockable suits as well, because because you're given like little silver coins on top of the usual gold, but those are harder to find because they only come out in pinatas, which naturally you just punch and you're just given all these goodies. But the I think So I'm losing myself in my notes. Oh yeah, and on top of the those athletic abilities, you're given a chicken form, which is essentially the morph ball, except way like 5 times more amusing because essentially you're just like running around as a chicken trying to dodge enemies because you can't fight as one, so you have to be a little more quick in your approach to things. Yeah, it's a good length at about like it's an 8-hour game, I would say, like if you're playing casually. So it's a good length. I would say like my only problem with the whole title was there was a hell level that I saw on the map, and I was like, okay, that must be the last level. I actually finished the game faster than I thought. Because like the last level was not the hell level. The hell level was a bonus, which I completely missed. But by then I already finished the final boss.
Oh.
That was... Yeah. So basically, yeah, if you play this game, go to the hell level first. It's just a bunch of trials that you can optionally do, but I guess it's good to earn extra currency because you will need it. Because I saved up for the most expensive suits, which it gave you less health but more like punching power. It's essentially like devil horns and like a suit. And you can even play as, I mean, regarding like unlockable things, you can even play as your female partner. I forget her name though. It's bugging me, but I know the female version of one is Juanita. So I think like they're mostly cosmetic, and you can even play as the villains, but that's paid DLC, not in the Super Turbo version, which I think they would have included being a complete version. Like that's like a minor gripe. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say because it's just such a really refined game that there's not many problems with it. I mean, have you tried that or its sequel, either of you?
Let me start first. For me personally, I never played it, but I did get the Wii U shop, the Wii U eShop version many years ago.
Was it Super Turbo?
I think it is. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But later on...
So I know they did a gold edition like beforehand.
Yeah, but later on I found it was offered for free on the PlayStation Plus. So I got that version, but still never played it as well.
Yeah.
But
I keep forgetting it's actually a co-op game.
Really?
Yeah,
like, you have
I
up
think
to
so.
4 players. Like, how the hell will that work? You know, it's pretty chaotic on its own, but 4 players? I mean, it probably actually makes things too easy.
I thought it was only 2.
No, it's 4. Like, it does 1, 2, 3, 4. At least on the PS4 version. I don't know how it handles it on other platforms.
Interesting.
Yeah. I have played a bit of the sequel as well, and it's more of the same, which is great, and even more, like, somehow stunning boss fights. Like, they somehow managed to make the visuals, which were already pretty distinct, like, even more, like, there's just that little much more detail. But the problem with the sequel is you have to start from square one in terms of powers, but at least in that game, you can fight as a chicken this time.
Oh, you can fight?
Which is as a chicken. In the last game, like, the chicken form was non-combatant.
Oh, yeah.
Which had so many more possibilities, actually, because there's, like, there's more emphasis on the chicken, and a completely, somehow even more, like, the plot was pretty silly before, but in 2, it's like, okay, but they really go far on, not the whole reference stuff, especially in the intro, you'll see it. It's like, it's got some great gags I will not spoil. So, yeah, play 1, and then play... 2 straight after him, especially. And actually, I did get the villains pack unintentionally. Like, it was just given away with 2, so you can get to play as like the bosses, like this Jaguar man and this like other guy who has like a troupe of chicken performers. Like, I don't know, like it's just wacky all over. So, I don't really have much more to say about that. It's just nice. But I will bring up, there was like another game by the same dev team, Severed, which I briefly played when PlayStation Plus offered Vita games.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that game.
Yeah. Severed. I didn't like the gameplay as much. It was like first-person dungeon crawly with like cryptic puzzles. Like the visuals again were great. They were like the same outlineless stuff, but I couldn't grasp like how the map was laid out. So it kind of did the opposite of what Guacamelee did, where it was so intuitive.
is it?
And I don't know if it was Vita only. It was probably on other platforms. I think Steam.
I think it got released on Steam and other platforms.
Yeah, because I think it was like very touchscreen heavy, or maybe it was like a phone game as well. I don't know. But either way, I don't know what else Drinkbox have done. I think they've got a new game out, but I can't remember its title.
No idea, honestly.
I'd have to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's advertised on their Steam page. If you look up Guacamelee, it's probably on their Steam page. But either way, yeah, that's the first game covered. So yeah, I wasn't even rushing through that. There's like not much wrong with it.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna try it out whenever I can then.
Yeah, it's worth a shot, and I mean, try the co-op mode if someone's around. Just I'm genuinely curious to see how that would work.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, I played the game. I got the game back in 2014, I believe, or 2015 maybe, on through Xbox Live Gold on my Xbox One, more precisely the Super Champion whatever edition.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say that it's definitely a pretty damn good game.
Yeah. No, it's just like it's just nice to have like a title that doesn't like fuck a bunch of stuff up essentially. Because honestly, I've been let down before with like I don't think it was even really a Kickstarter thing. It just kind of appeared one day for me. Again through Some Call Me Johnny, and it was like, okay, this looks cool. So,
yeah, I mean, it was mainly because of his review that I was even aware of the game at all. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have known about it.
Yeah, it was just also nice to see all the like the culture in the game as well, because they're like really into like it's just a lot of cool Mexican stuff in there with like all the creature designs and characters and the sense of humor. It's just like it's just nice to see.
While the Mexican culture is generally a pretty common thing to show off in the media, I think I like the way the game showed it off though.
Yeah, because my only other exposure to Luchador was Lucha the cartoon, and
yeah, I remember that cartoon.
Nacho Libre, which I don't remember being that funny.
The latter I don't really remember, but Lucha I do.
Yeah, like it's a Flash cartoon that's still in HD because like that was like vectorized, and yet we have other shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender that like stuck in like a low resolution.
Yeah.
So like someone
like 480i.
Yeah, someone joked that. I mean, I looked at it on Netflix recently. It didn't look bad, but yeah. Anyway, no, the basically that version can like someone joked that it could technically be scaled to 4K and beyond. So
yeah, I mean, Pan Pizza. I'm thinking.
Yes. I just thought that's just such a weird factor. Anyway, yeah, Guacamelee, good time, high recommendation, on sale a lot as well. So yeah, the other game, if I can quickly hop subjects, would be is okay to do so. Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Crash N.Sane Trilogy, which I finished while streaming it to some friends, like both 2 and 3.
Oh, nice.
I finished 1 beforehand off stream.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, again, there's not really much to say. I mean, there's a lot to say, but like, again, it does things more things well than bad. So yeah, it's essentially, I've never finished any version of like older Crash on PS1. Mainly one because the save system was complete like garbage. Like you had to save after each special stage, and considering that the game's already hard, it's like, don't lump this on me. It's just like just trying to finish a normal stage is well, as you said with Sonic Heroes, nerve-wracking. Whereas this is even more so, considering it's like early 3D.
Yes.
Now, a cool thing with this game was the excitement behind it that like the series really needed, because there was like a massive several year-long gap.
Yes.
After the last game, Mind Over Mutant, which was like this weird experimental sort of game with like these cutscenes that kept shifting art styles, and I was like, what the hell is this? What's going on? Yeah, in retrospect, those are the best bit of the game. Because I bought a cheap PS2 copy. Like this was like years before the Sony E3 announcement, where like they just the Sony guy, I don't know his name, walked up on stage and there was like a silhouette of Crash, and like, everyone just freaked out because it was just like the first time we ever heard of him.
Oh yeah, Sean Layden.
In like years. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know these Sony guys by face. I don't know them by name.
Yeah.
It's like they're not as much personality as Nintendo, sadly.
Yeah.
But it was a big reveal. But it was sort of like it could have gone very wrong for them, like reveal wise, because they then followed it with like a fucking Skylanders showcase.
Everyone was
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Like honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you say.
Yeah, it was pretty much like, hey, there's Crash is now in Skylanders, and also here's this Crash Trilogy remaster thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just like basically in retrospect, the figures are pretty nice. I mean, I probably wouldn't grab a copy of the game, but I'd get the figurines. But like, what was funny was that I didn't realize how slow the game was until I saw Kidicris's review, and it's like, yeah, I'm kind of good with the game because I've already got like, we got the real Crash at home.
Crashing home.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, Crash's Skylanders design isn't a hideous abomination that is Spyro's Skylanders design.
Oh god, no! Honestly, like, that's a whole other kettle of dragons. No,
Pretty
honestly,
much.
I'm glad that Spyro got much better treatment later on as well, because that was
Yeah.
like what was also exciting. Again, I have a copy, but I've yet to even touch it. I mean, I finished N.Sane, so now Spyro's on my next list. So like now that I have the collection, it's like, hey, you know, get to that. Yeah, the funny thing is with like also in terms of early stuff with Crash N.Sane, do you recall the super early box art? It's just Crash standing in the middle of like
Yeah.
half having an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going.
That image is still used on the final box, but on the spine with him covered by an Aku Aku mask.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes like.
Like when they showed off actual gameplay, I was like way more sold. And what was funny was it actually released on my birthday, like June 30th.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't get it on my birthday. I got it shortly afterwards. But basically, it looked like such a high quality title. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get this. Not day one, because I never really get games brand new. I mean, if I'm really sold on it, then I will tend to grab it or ask for it. I even have a poster of it from like a closing down game shop. It was like fully laminated. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm displaying this. But yeah, no, what was cool about it is like the visuals still look nice across all three games, though they have since been slightly bested by 4.
Yeah, 4 looks. 4 is real. 4 looks great.
Yeah, like it still looks good though. I mean, the model is it's such a weird contrast when you go from, you know, N.Sane to 4. I mean, mentioning 4, I'm glad that's a thing because I briefly tried, what was it, Wrath of Cortex on a 360, which runs better than Twinsanity did, which I somehow finished, but I couldn't get past like an easy boss, it was basically a boss that Kadikarus found easy in his video, and I was like, what are you talking about? This is hard as hell. It's like, it's water-based, and you're chasing Crunch around, but yeah. So I'm glad that's technically been erased from the Crash canon.
I mean, though, in a sense, I do kind of wish for an Twinsanity remaster.
Yeah, just to make it run better, because things like that Nina level ran like absolute crap on 360.
I mean, that's probably because you're playing on a 360, which
I know,
emulates
but
OG
I didn't
Xbox.
know about the performance issues. And I have an original Xbox, but basically I was stuck with so many little lives. I thought, yeah, well, let me just restart this on a 360.
Yeah, anyways, a remaster that restores the deleted content would be amazing.
Because I heard infamous things. I didn't even finish Stormy Ascent. I tried it. I tried to play it.
I beat it.
No, but like...
But barely.
Oh, someone did.
Yeah.
No, basically, I knew it would be hard. I gave it a shot. I just thought, you know what? I don't need to beat this to beat the main game, so I don't need to do this. But I'm glad that it's there as like a historical thing.
Yeah, it's for the
Like
best.
that's
It's
pretty
optional.
cool. Though, oh god, I mean, the only... Okay, the thing is, Crash 1 does still have its, like what the hell moments, but I think, hands down, the worst stage in 1 is the Turtle Bridge one. Because I swear, like, that one led to so many fucking deaths, and it's like it's so I couldn't even get the walking across the rope trick to work.
Yeah.
It's just that finicky. It's like I don't how the fuck could you speedrun this?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I think the biggest.
Yeah, I barely got the golden relic for that one.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not bothered. I never bothered with the time trials. I was just happy to just beat the level in a decent time.
I can't blame you.
Yeah. So, having played both the game on the PS4 and PC, like I said, on the PS4, I think that the problem, the why it's so painful on that version, is because of the input latency.
Yeah, I heard
It's kind of
I wouldn't have known that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I played this game on somewhere around 1 millisecond display, 1 millisecond input, I don't know, 1 millisecond monitor, and it just feels pretty clunky. It just feels pretty slow to. The game feels slow to respond, which is kind of not what you want in a platformer. But going to the PC version, this stage was much easier due to the removed lag, probably. And overall, playing the game overall was more pleasant on PC.
Okay. Yeah. Now, the thing is, the only other stage match by that was in Crash 2. It felt overall more refined, but it still had its moments where there was a I don't remember the stage name. It was close to the end of the game because I was playing this on stream to friends, and they were like, suffering with me technically. There was like these spinning flame statues on a stone bridge, and I swear the hitbox of the flames, the flames will still get you just as they fade out, and that was incredibly frustrating. Like having to just make it and then get killed by a flame that was just existed as like a plume of smoke.
Was
I don't know if that was again a PS4 issue.
Was that on the third island?
I don't remember. This was Crash 2.
Oh, Crash 2.
Now I'm kind of hopping between all three because the thing is, having played 2 and 3 more recently and more fresh in my mind, whereas 1 I finished a bit more while back, and then I played a bit of 2 and then left it for a bit, and I thought, you know what, I'll stream this to some friends, so it's all over the place, but but basically that was, and then it was weird because with 2 I finished the final boss almost no problem, and the jetpack stages, and I didn't have to grind as many lives as compared to 1. With 1 there was this one stage with bats that kept flying at you, and I just thought, okay, stand here for ages and spin, collect all the Wumpa fruit possible, get as many lives, save, which thankfully, mentioning the saving system, I'm glad you could pretty much save anywhere.
Yeah.
Why you wouldn't do. The only annoyance with it is that, okay, I save into every single slot available, but the problem is if you lose all your lives, the oversave, the autosave slot overwrites the save with less lives. So then you kind of have to load your previous save, which has more lives.
Oh.
And also, for some reason, load is square, not X. So you may accidentally load. Save is square, but not X is load. So you might accidentally end up loading a previous save instead of saving over a save.
Yeah, this happened to me once.
It's really dumb, and I don't get it. It's really stupid. Because it's not because square is not usually a menu button that most people would use. It's either circle or X, and it's most commonly X, but whatever. Minor gripe, and I got used to it, but it was just this sort of, okay, I better make sure I'm saving in the right place. Yeah, the jetpack in 2, I surprisingly didn't suffer with much as more. Was that a sentence? No, I can't. I didn't suffer with as much as I thought it would, because, I don't know, I think, aside from struggling to judge distance at times with objects approaching you, I wasn't really that. I don't know how they were in the PS1 original, whether or not they controlled clumsier or not, but honestly I didn't find the jetpacks that bad.
I think they're the same
compared to Huh?
I played
they're
the original,
same.
so
Okay.
they're almost the same.
Yeah, because I know that. Yeah, because basically what's it? Because I think the last 2 stages, before the final boss, pure platforming, were they were 2 factory levels back to back, and they were genuinely they had these squid enemies that like would sometimes unfold so that you had to jump on them, or like would close up so you had to spin.
Yes.
They were nerve-wracking. Just like, yeah, those were. But honestly, I'm glad that I got it out of the way so that I could play Crash 3, where things were even more refined with the unlockable moves.
Yes.
Like, because I think those added a lot of replayability. Though, I swear I finished it in a much shorter time. Like, I somehow breezed through that almost no problem. I say almost, you know. Then you get like the motorcycle stages and the jet ski. Which, at least on the motorcycle stages, I'm super glad that you don't lose lives. It was actually the easiest way to gain lives.
Yeah, it's for the best.
You know,
you don't lose lives. That's
I could not imagine.
Remake.
I could not imagine aiming for the relics on those stages though, because you know you get overtaken by the traffic. You have to hit almost every boost pad and hit every box, and it's like I can't do that. I was just happy to beat the stage so I could move on. But no, honestly, it kind of made me wish that Crash 3's unlockable set was available in 1 or 2, although that might actually end up breaking the game.
Yeah.
You know, being able to hover over like pits into supposed to. But I'd like to see it. Maybe someone's modded it into the PC version.
I think it already got modded for the PC version.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd be curious to see, because yeah, I did like the expanded moveset, and the Fruit Bazooka was incredibly useful. Although, like, the one thing that did trouble me in 3 was the amount of, like, it made use of, like, light and shadow, especially in these tomb levels. But, like, there's one, like, bonus stage which is literally in the dark unless you're quick enough about it, and trying to, like, navigate your way to the end panel once you've smashed all the crates is, like, okay, am I on the panel or am I falling off? Because I didn't realize that, you're not stuck to a 2D plane, you can move back and forth. So you might actually end up slipping off the stage towards the camera.
Yeah.
So that's happened to me several times.
Oh.
But yeah, no, honestly, and on top of like the gameplay, which you know I still like I enjoyed it. Still got its clumsy moments. It was just nice to see the wacky cutscenes and like the funny sense of humor essentially, because like I don't think the voice actors ever really changed aside from like maybe I think Cortex was like 2 guys at one point.
For the original game, it was a completely different cast. Original games. Oh yeah, for the first game it was someone different, and then for the second and third game it was Clancy Brown. As for the remakes, he's all voiced by
Mr. Crab.
Yep, Mr. Crab, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I knew that. Yeah, because I never. Mystery is I never knew who voiced Crash. Like I know it's just like noises, but it's like I'm wondering, is it kind of like the guy who? It kind of reminds me of the guy who created Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, like how he voices the character.
I know for the remakes.
Well.
Yeah, I know for the remakes he's voiced by Jess Harnell.
Oh yeah, I actually met him once. I didn't realize he was Yakko.
Yep.
Very chill guy. He was in a Bugs Bunny game that he got my friend got him to sign. Lost in Time.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, he's this weird. But he plays the weird Merlin. That's who he plays.
Merlin. Oh, I played that game back in the day. Oh.
I have a copy and Sheep Raider, which looks awesome. No, not Sheep Raider. No, Sheepdog Wolf, also known as Sheep Raider. If I ever finish those, I'll definitely bring those up on a future thing. But yeah, no, because honestly, there's so many PS1 platformers I missed out on only because they were either inaccessible to buy, or because a lot of the elements didn't age all that well. But at least with Crash 2 and 3, even on original PS1, the saving system was immediately better.
Yes, you can save whatever you like.
If I did have to go back, it would be 2 and 3. Probably not 1. 1 I still keep my copy because it's I think it's like an early copy where it was supposed to come with a demo disc, but my copy didn't, and the stick is sort of half faded, so I can't really tell. I could make out the words Tekken on the front, but that was about it.
It was
I think there was a Tekken demo that came with Crash.
If it's 96,
or something.
If it's 96, then it's probably Tekken 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes. Yeah, it was probably Tekken.
When Tekken got better, at least.
Mm. I have a copy of Tekken 1 in a card case, but that's like the less good Tekken. But that's
yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, I have a bunch of like Crash ripoffs as well in my collection. Like, there's a Lilo and Stitch. I'm mentioning Lilo and Stitch. There's a Lilo and Stitch Crash ripoff.
Really?
Do you
Lost
have
in
Donald
Paradise.
Duck going quackers?
I have that one too on both formats, PS2 and PS1. Apparently, they're slightly different. There was an M&M's game as well that ripped off Crash. Basically, Crash was so influential that everyone just ripped it off for ages.
Yeah, I played the M&M game once. It's not good.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that Red all along was Danny DeVito, at least according to that one Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. But no, honestly, with Crash being so on and off, in fact, I think Twinsanity might have been the first one that kind of spurred me. It kind of reignited my interest after, basically, I don't think at that point I didn't finish the N.Sane Trilogy, so I thought, okay, let me give Twinsanity a shot, because that was like, I wouldn't say it was a short game, but I just thought, okay, I like this game's sense of humor. Let me just go back to this and So I'm just glad that like Crash is now again a popular thing in the gaming conscious, because the amount of merch that there is, it's actually what kind of leaked Crash 4.
Yeah.
Like the early Torna designs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like it was just sort of like mugs and.
I got a few.
I think it was like a keychain that showed her like a new haircut.
Oh, Crash 4.
Yeah. Yeah, but also like like all the yes, and I will find out how that game plays. Apparently, it's hard as balls to get absolutely everything, which I'm not attempting.
Yes, yes. I play the game.
Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4. I forgot the reference. Like in the intro, you play Crash 1.
Yeah.
That was like before. Was that before?
I mean, it's kind of a homage. It's more of a homage to it than just a straight up rip-off.
Yeah,
though.
it feels different to play. It's really weird, and I've seen like hacks where people got Nathan Drake to play in the Crash level.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I was just like, what the hell is this? And it's like, it's kind of fascinating, like the fact they got the right. I don't know how the rights work, but like it was just like really cool, just like a cool little tribute there. I mean, apparently, Nathan Drake kind of sucks at playing Crash, but it's just everyone does at first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Sony and Activision seem to have some good relationships, which is probably they definitely have some good business deals with Call of Duty series and the Crash N.Sane Trilogy was a timed exclusive on the PS4 at least.
I'm also happy that what's it called? The kart game came out well, although those microtransactions kind of retroactively sort of soured that.
Yeah.
Just like that was basically, I was worried that they'd add something similar to 4. Everyone was, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, we're both glad that Crash is relevant again.
Yeah. So overall, I'm glad that Crash is back in the popular consciousness. His games are doing well, and it kind of proves, hey, Activision could publish some decent stuff.
Yeah.
Once in a while, that's not microtransaction-filled shooters and Bobby man getting too much money. He already has enough. Stop it.
Yeah.
Bobby Kotick or something. I don't know, like the CEO who looks a bit smug.
Yeah, Bobby.
That's all I know.
Kotick.
That's all I know.
He could single-handedly fund. A few big-budget Hollywood movies with his own money.
Yeah.
Put that money to more Crash.
Yeah.
Revive all the IPs. Make a new Gex. Oh, I know that's Square Enix.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, they need a big hit after Balan. Make a new Gex. Make a new Gex. In fact, actually, I finished 3D not too long ago. Actually, surprisingly, still pretty decent.
Gex 3D.
But yeah, it's one that really deserves. Basically, with all this PS1 stuff getting redone, it's kind of like, hey, bring him back. Bring out. I mean, any platformer. It's just like, because Yeah.
They kind of bring him back as a realistic gecko this time.
Oh. Yeah, that make him like in the Tomb Raider reboot where like he'll die horribly in graphic manners.
Oh no.
I suppose I've died now.
So yeah, more gigs, more Crash, definitely. I'm for it. I'm all for it. So those were your picks, and with that, I think we're pretty much done with this episode of Backlog Banter.
Hello?
Hello?
No.
No.
I'm glad we're wrapping up now.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. Anyway, so those
It
were
would suck.
yeah. Okay. So those were our picks. I guess that's about it for this episode. I think we should plug in your stuff in now. Let's start with you, Otis.
Okay, so much like any other time, I'm mostly active on Twitter, Meleemario720, and I have a separate drawing page at Otis Beard Draws. Occasionally, I will stream on Twitch. I'm pretty sure it's Meleemario364 on there. So I don't announce streams. I'll just do them whenever I feel like it. So if you happen to see me, I might be streaming an OG Xbox game, considering I've been using that feature a hell of a lot with old stuff on the Xbox One. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right.
And then this is Dark. And this is Dark here, and you can find me on YouTube as DarkSparkish. I occasionally upload YouTube poops and maybe some other stuff from time to time. Though you will always find me active on Twitter, where I retweet and tweet every day, and my Twitter handle is @DarkSparkish. Thank you very much for having me, Serial.
All right, that's about it. All right, that's about it for this episode of Backlog Banter. This is me, Serial K, and our guests signing off. Bye.